As you settle into comfort, feel your breathing gradually slow and deepen. Your surroundings begin to fade as your imagination awakens. The sounds around you transform into the gentle rustling of leaves and distant birdsong. You find yourself walking along a narrow dirt path in ancient Japan. The morning air is crisp against your skin, carrying the sweet scent of cherry blossoms that drift lazily from the trees lining the path. You can feel the soft earth beneath your feet and hear the whisper of your own footsteps. As you round a gentle bend, a humble dwelling comes into view, a small thatched roof house with paper lanterns hanging by the entrance. This is the home of Hakuin, a Zen master renowned throughout the region for his wisdom and compassion. You pause near a flowering tree, watching as children gather around Hakuin in his small garden. His eyes crinkle warmly as he speaks with them, his voice gentle yet resonant with inner strength. Villagers stop by throughout the morning, seeking his counsel on matters both mundane and profound. You notice how they leave with lighter expressions, as if burdens have been lifted from their shoulders. There's something about Hakuin's presence that seems to radiate peace itself. Weeks pass as you stay in the village, and you become familiar with its rhythms and residents. One afternoon, you notice an unusual commotion. A young woman, the daughter of a prominent family, has discovered she is with child. You overhear the whispers as you pass the village well, see the concerned glances exchanged between neighbors. The situation takes a shocking turn when, under intense pressure from her parents, the young woman names Hakuin as the father. The next morning, drawn by raised voices, you find yourself standing near Hakuin's garden. The young woman's parents have arrived, their faces contorted with rage. Her father's voice cuts through the peaceful morning air. "You have brought shame upon our daughter and our family," he shouts, fists clenched at his sides. "Everyone believes you to be so virtuous, but now we know the truth." You feel a knot of tension in your own stomach, anticipating Hakuin's reaction. Will he defend himself, become angry, deny the accusation? You watch as Hakuin listens, his face a portrait of calm attention. When the parents finally pause, breathing heavily from their tirade, Hakuin responds with just 3 words, spoken so softly you almost don't catch them. "Is that so?" You feel a strange sensation wash over you, confusion mixed with something like awe. Just that? No defense, no explanation, no denial? The parents seem equally stunned, then even more enraged by what they perceive as indifference. They storm away, promising to tell everyone in the village about Hakuin's disgrace. In the days that follow, you witness a remarkable transformation in the village. People who once greeted Hakuin with reverence now cross to the other side of the path to avoid him. The children no longer gather in his garden. Whispers follow him wherever he goes. Yet through it all, Hakuin continues his simple life, meditating in the morning light, tending his garden, fetching water from the well. When confronted directly or when catching the whispers, he responds with the same 3 words, "Is that so?" Months pass and the seasons change. Cherry blossoms give way to the lush greens of summer, then to autumn's golden hues. One winter morning, as snow falls softly outside, you hear a firm knock at Hakuin's door. The young woman has given birth, and her parents have brought the infant to Hakuin. Standing nearby, you feel the cold air against your face as you watch this scene unfold. "Since you are the father, you must take care of your child," they declare, thrusting the swaddled baby into his arms before turning away, their footsteps crunching in the fresh snow. As they disappear down the path, you expect to see despair, or at least concern on Hakuin's face. Instead, he looks down at the infant with tender eyes and says softly, "Is that so?" The baby whimpers, and without hesitation, Hakuin brings the child inside to the warmth of his humble home. You find yourself drawn to help as Hakuin adapts to caring for the infant. You watch him fashion a cradle from a basket, carefully line it with soft cloth. You accompany him as he visits neighbors to obtain milk and learn about caring for a baby. His days, once filled with teaching and meditation, now revolve entirely around the needs of this small child. When villagers express shock or judgment, Hakuin simply responds, "Is that so?" Through changing seasons, you witness Hakuin's unwavering care for the child. You see him soothe the baby's cries in the middle of the night, fashion toys from simple materials, sing soft lullabies under the light of the moon. The baby's first smile, first tentative steps, all are met with Hakuin's quiet joy and presence. A full year passes in this way. Then one spring morning, as cherry blossoms again drift through the air, you notice the young woman and her parents approaching Hakuin's dwelling. Their faces are different now, drawn with shame rather than anger. You move closer, feeling your heart quicken with anticipation. The parents bow deeply before Hakuin, pressing their foreheads to the ground. "Master Hakuin," the father says, his voice breaking, "we have come to apologize and to tell you the truth. Our daughter has confessed that you are not the father of this child. The real father is a young man from the fish market. We are deeply ashamed of our accusations and the suffering we have caused you." The mother adds, "We have come to take the child back to our daughter, and we will tell everyone in the village the truth about your innocence." You watch Hakuin's face closely, searching for signs of resentment, relief, or vindication. You find none. With the same equanimity he has shown throughout this ordeal, Hakuin gently hands the child, whom he has cared for as his own for a full year, back to the grandparents. And as they express their profound regret and promises to restore his reputation, Hakuin responds with the same 3 words that have carried him through this entire journey. "Is that so?" Standing there in the soft morning light, witnessing this extraordinary demonstration of equanimity, you feel something shift within your own understanding. You begin to grasp the profound freedom that comes with Hakuin's response to life's circumstances, neither clinging to what is pleasant nor resisting what is difficult, but meeting each moment with open awareness. As you reflect on what you've witnessed, you realize that Hakuin's "Is that so?" was never indifference or resignation. It was the expression of a mind free from the tyranny of having to defend itself, explain itself, or identify with circumstances beyond its control. You recognize how differently you might have responded in his position, the energy you would have expended in defending your reputation, the resentment you might have harbored toward those who falsely accused you, the attachment you might have developed to a child you had cared for so deeply. You understand now that Hakuin's response reflects the Buddhist concept of upekkha, or equanimity, not a cold detachment, but a warm acceptance of reality as it unfolds. This is not about suppressing feelings, but finding a center of peace that remains steady, even as emotions rise and fall, like the depth of the ocean that remains calm, despite the waves on its surface. As you slowly return to your own reality, bring with you the question, where in your life might you respond with, "Is that so?" When someone criticizes you unfairly, when plans change unexpectedly, when circumstances seem unjust, can you meet these moments with Hakuin's equanimity? Can you observe your reactions without being defined by them? Can you find that still point within that remains untouched by the ever-changing circumstances of your life? Hakuin's simple response offers a profound invitation to release our grip on how we think things should be and find freedom in accepting what is. Not as passive resignation, but as the foundation for clear, compassionate action in a world we cannot control. As you drift towards sleep, allow Hakuin's gentle wisdom to settle into your heart, creating space for this same equanimity to blossom in your own life. As you settle deeper into comfort, feel your breath becoming slower and more rhythmic. The weight of your body seems to dissolve as your mind drifts to another time and place. The sounds around you gradually transform into the gentle rustling of bamboo leaves and the distant murmur of flowing water. You find yourself walking along a stone path that winds through a Japanese mountain monastery. The air here tastes fresh and cool against your lips. Morning mist still clings to the valley below, and dew glistens on spiderwebs stretched between branches. As you round a corner, you come upon a serene courtyard where several young monks are engaged in their morning tasks. One figure in particular catches your attention, a young man named Tekisui, whose mindful movements suggest he has been at the monastery for some time, though he still has the eager expression of a relatively new student. You watch as Tekisui finishes sweeping fallen leaves from the stone pathway. As he puts away his bamboo broom, an older monk approaches him. This is the Zen master Nissan, whose reputation for both wisdom and strictness has spread throughout the region. Though advanced in years, Nissan moves with surprising vigor, his eyes alert and penetrating beneath bushy white eyebrows. "Tekisui," the master calls, his voice carrying clearly across the courtyard. "Bring me a pail of water to cool my bath." You follow at a respectful distance as Tekisui bows and hurries to fulfill the request. He retrieves a wooden bucket from a small shed, then proceeds to a well in the center of another courtyard. The well is ancient, its stone rim worn smooth by generations of hands. With practiced movements, Tekisui lowers the bucket into the darkness, the rope sliding through his palms until you hear the distant splash below. He draws up the water, now heavy with its precious contents, and carries it carefully to where Master Nissan waits beside a large wooden tub. You can feel the cool moisture in the air as Tekisui pours the water into the bath, steam rising as it meets the hot water already there. When the bath is properly cooled, Tekisui stands back, apparently waiting to be dismissed. Instead of entering the bath, however, Nissan observes Tekisui closely. The young monk has taken the bucket, still containing a small amount of unused water, and is about to casually toss it onto the ground next to the bathhouse. "Stop!" Nissan's command cuts through the morning quiet like a knife. Tekisui freezes, the bucket tilted, water about to spill. He looks at his teacher with confusion. "You dunce!" the master scolds, his voice stern but not unkind. "Why didn't you give the rest of the water to the plants? What right have you to waste even a drop of water in this temple?" You watch the color rise in Tekisui's face as he straightens the bucket. For a moment, he seems about to defend himself. After all, it's just a small amount of water. But something in Nissan's expression stops him. There is an intensity in the master's gaze that suggests this is no trivial matter. The courtyard has fallen completely silent. Even the birds seem to have paused their morning songs. In this stillness, you can almost feel the weight of the teaching that hangs in the air between master and student. Then something remarkable happens. As you observe Tekisui's face, you see a profound transformation, not just embarrassment or obedience, but a flash of genuine insight. His eyes widen slightly, and his posture shifts as understanding blossoms within him like a flower opening to the sun. Without another word, Tekisui turns and carefully carries the remaining water to a cluster of young herbs growing nearby. He pours it mindfully at their roots, ensuring that not a single drop is wasted. When he finishes, he turns back to Nissan and bows deeply, gratitude evident in every line of his body. "I understand now, Master," he says softly. Nissan nods once, satisfaction briefly crossing his weathered face. Then he proceeds with his bath as if nothing significant has transpired, while Tekisui continues with his daily tasks. But you, as an observer, can sense that everything has changed for the young monk. In that simple moment, that single drop of water, about to be thoughtlessly discarded, Tekisui attained Zen. The story could end here, but you feel drawn to follow Tekisui through the rest of his day, curious about how this revelation will manifest. You notice immediately that something is different in how he moves through the monastery. As he helps prepare the midday meal, every grain of rice receives his full attention. When he washes the wooden bowls afterward, he uses precisely the amount of water needed, no more, no less. Even his footsteps seem more deliberate, as if he suddenly understands that each movement carries significance beyond its immediate purpose. Later, you overhear him speaking with another young monk, who asks why he has become so meticulous. Tekisui smiles and says, "Today, I learned that nothing is just a drop of water. In that drop is the entire universe. How we treat the smallest things reflects how we understand the largest things." Years later, when Tekisui becomes a teacher himself, he changes his name to Tekisui, which means a drop of water. The simple lesson by the bath becomes the foundation of his teaching, a reminder that in Zen, enlightenment often comes not through grand revelations, but through mindful attention to the most ordinary aspects of daily life. As you gradually return to your own reality, consider the drops of water in your own life, those seemingly insignificant resources, moments, or opportunities that you might be overlooking or discarding without thought. Perhaps it's the last few minutes before you fall asleep, the leftovers from a meal, a brief exchange with a stranger, or even the unconscious patterns of your breathing. Tekisui's story reminds us that mindfulness isn't about grand spiritual experiences, but about bringing full awareness to even the smallest actions. When we waste water, or food, time, energy, attention, we aren't just being careless with physical resources, we're revealing a fundamental misunderstanding about the interconnected nature of all things. Each drop of water comes from somewhere and goes somewhere. Nothing exists in isolation. Nothing is truly insignificant. In Zen practice, this awareness extends to every aspect of life. The way you wash your face in the morning, how you prepare a meal, the attention you bring to cleaning your home, all become opportunities for practice. All contain the entirety of the Buddhist path. As the 13th century Zen master Dogen taught, to study the Buddha way is to study the self. To study the self is to forget the self. To forget the self is to be actualized by myriad things. As you drift towards sleep, bring gentle awareness to the sensation of your breathing, each inhalation and exhalation like a precious drop of air being received and released. Notice how your consciousness naturally shifts when you pay this kind of attention. Perhaps you too might discover, like Tekisui, that the path to profound wisdom often begins with the most ordinary of moments, with just a single drop of water. As you sink deeper into comfort, feel your breathing become slow and rhythmic. The boundaries between your conscious mind and the realm of dreams begin to soften. The gentle darkness behind your closed eyelids transforms, revealing a scene from long ago in medieval Japan. You find yourself walking along a winding mountain path as the late afternoon sun filters through ancient cedar trees. The path leads to a small hermitage perched on a hillside overlooking a misty valley. This is the dwelling of Basue Tokusho, a renowned Zen master known throughout the region for his direct, penetrating teachings and his compassion for all seekers, regardless of their background or status. Unlike many teachers who remain cloistered in grand temples, Basue chose to live simply, making the wisdom of Zen accessible to farmers, merchants, and samurai alike. As you approach the hermitage, you notice Basue sitting on a weathered wooden platform outside his modest hut. His frame is thin but strong, like a wind-shaped pine. Though probably in his 60s, there is a timeless quality to his presence. His eyes, when they meet yours, are clear and penetrating, yet filled with warmth. Several disciples sit nearby, some preparing food, others copying sutras or tending to the small garden that provides vegetables for their simple meals. You observe as a messenger arrives, bowing respectfully before presenting Baswe with a scroll. "Master," says the messenger, "I bring word from your disciple Iguchi. He has fallen gravely ill and believes he will not recover. He begs for your final teaching to guide him through his transition." Baswe receives the message with a thoughtful nod. You can see compassion wash across his features as he considers his response. One of the nearby disciples brings paper, inkstone, and brush. With deliberate movements, Baswe grinds the ink, his focus complete, as if this simple preparation is itself a teaching. When the ink reaches the perfect consistency, Baswe takes up his brush. You move closer, drawn by the intensity of his concentration. For a moment, he sits perfectly still, brush poised above the paper. Then, with fluid movements that reflect decades of spiritual practice, he begins to write. Though you stand just behind him, you cannot read the characters flowing from his brush. Yet something about the grace and certainty of his movements suggests that these are no ordinary words of comfort or religious platitude. There is a directness and immediacy to his writing that seems to cut through all barriers of time and distance, as if he is not merely sending a message but somehow sitting beside the dying man's bed, speaking truth directly into his ear. When Baswe finishes, he blows gently on the paper to dry the ink, then carefully rolls the scroll and seals it. As he hands it to the messenger, he says, "Travel swiftly. Iguchi's time is short." The messenger bows and departs immediately, leaving you wondering what final wisdom Baswe has shared with his dying disciple. You feel a strong desire to know what was written, sensing that it contains a teaching of profound importance. That night, as you sit in meditation with the community, Baswe addresses his disciples. "Today, I wrote to Iguchi, who stands at the threshold between this life and whatever lies beyond. You too should consider what I shared with him, for though you appear healthy now, none of us knows when we will face our final breath." With these words, Baswe reveals the essence of what he wrote. The essence of your mind is not born, so it will never die. It is not an existence which is perishable. It is not an emptiness, which is a mere void. It has neither color nor form. It enjoys no pleasures and suffers no pains. "I know you are very ill," he continues, his voice gentle yet unwavering. "Like a good Zen student, you are facing that sickness squarely. You may not know exactly who is suffering, but question yourself, what is the essence of this mind? Think only of this. You will need no more. Covet nothing. Your end, which is endless, is as a snowflake dissolving in the pure air. A profound stillness settles over the room as these words hang in the air. You feel their impact, not just intellectually, but physically, a subtle shift in the quality of your presence, as if some habitual tension has momentarily released. Though you may not fully grasp the ultimate meaning of Baswe's teaching, you sense its power to transform fear into peace, contraction into openness. Later, you learn that when the messenger arrived at Iguchi's bedside and read Basui's letter, the dying man's face transformed. The lines of pain and anxiety softened, replaced by a subtle smile of recognition. He died that night, his body relaxed, his breathing calm until the very end. Those present reported that the room itself seemed filled with a quiet radiance that remained even after his final breath. As the days pass, and you continue your stay near Basui's hermitage, you find yourself returning again and again to the words of his letter. The essence of your mind is not born, so it will never die. What is this essence that precedes birth and transcends death? What is this awareness that is neither existence nor emptiness, that has no form yet clearly is? You notice how our ordinary thinking about life and death assumes a solid self that comes into existence at birth and ceases to exist at death. We imagine ourselves as separate entities, navigating through time and space, accumulating experiences, possessions, relationships, and identities, all of which we fear losing when death comes. But Baswe points to something more fundamental than this constructed self, the pure awareness that witnesses all experience yet is itself unchanged by what it witnesses. This awareness has no beginning or end. It is not a thing that can be born or die. It has no form or color, feels no pleasure or pain. Yet it is not nothing, not mere emptiness or void. It is the luminous cognizance that knows all forms while remaining formless itself. When Basui instructs his dying disciple to ask, "What is the essence of this mind?" he is not suggesting an intellectual investigation, but a direct turning of awareness back upon itself. This simple yet profound inquiry has the power to cut through all our complex narratives about who we are and what happens when we die. It points us toward the deathless nature of our most essential being. Your end, which is endless, is as a snowflake dissolving in the pure air. This beautiful metaphor reveals how death, properly understood, is not annihilation but transformation. The snowflake doesn't cease to exist when it melts. It returns to the water cycle from which it temporarily emerged. Its essence, water, remains, though its temporary form dissolves. Similarly, our individual consciousness, like a wave on the ocean, returns to the vast awareness from which it arose. Baswe's teaching offers profound comfort, not through false promises of eternal heavens or threats of punishment, but through direct pointing to the nature of mind itself. He doesn't ask his disciple to believe anything on faith, but invites him to investigate his own experience in the most intimate way possible. Think only of this. You will need no more. covet nothing. As you gradually return to your present reality, consider how this teaching might transform your own relationship with impermanence. We all face moments of ending, not just the final ending of death, but countless small endings throughout our lives. Relationships change, careers conclude, physical abilities diminish, cherished possessions break or disappear. Each of these endings offers an opportunity to ask Basui's essential question: what is the essence of this mind that witnesses all these changes? Rather than turning away from the reality of impermanence, Basui invites us to look directly into it, to discover within the very fabric of change something changeless. Not as an escape from the human experience of loss, but as a profound reconciliation with the true nature of existence. Like the dying Iguchi, we too might find that facing directly what we most fear becomes the doorway to our deepest peace. For, as Basui reminds us, the essence of your mind is not born, so it will never die. As your body settles more deeply into relaxation, feel your awareness expanding. The boundaries of your everyday consciousness begin to dissolve as you travel back through time to 18th century Japan. The rustling of leaves and the distant song of birds fills your ears as you find yourself walking along a narrow path that winds through a lush forest. Ahead, you glimpse a magnificent temple complex nestled among ancient cedar trees. This is a renowned Shingon Buddhist temple, where scholars and monks gather to study sacred texts and engage in philosophical discourse. As you approach, you notice the elegant curves of the temple roof against the sky and hear the sonorous tones of a ritual bell. The atmosphere is charged with spiritual energy and intellectual vigor. You are drawn to a large hall where a crowd has gathered. Inside, seated on an elevated platform, is a monk in immaculate robes. This is Jun, a Shingon master known throughout Japan not only for his spiritual insight, but for his extraordinary scholarship. Fluent in Sanskrit, Chinese, and several other languages, he is revered as one of the most brilliant minds of his generation. Jun's voice carries clearly through the hall as he delivers a complex lecture on Buddhist philosophy, weaving together strands of thought from various traditions with impressive erudition. The assembled students, mostly monks and a few scholarly lay people, listen with rapt attention, occasionally nodding in appreciation of a particularly insightful point. You notice how they lean forward when he speaks, as if physically drawn to the knowledge he offers. After the lecture concludes, the students bow deeply and begin to disperse. You follow Jun as he returns to his private quarters, a simple room despite his elevated status. As he settles at his desk to review some ancient texts, a temple attendant appears at the door. "Master Jun," the attendant says with a bow, "a letter has arrived for you." He presents a simple scroll sealed with wax. Jun takes the scroll and carefully breaks the seal. As he reads, a subtle change comes over his face, a softening around the eyes, a slight smile playing at the corners of his mouth. You sense that this is no ordinary correspondence. "It is from my mother," he says quietly, almost to himself. Though he is now in his 50s, a respected master with hundreds of disciples, there is something childlike in his expression as he holds the letter. You find yourself able to read the letter over his shoulder, drawn into this intimate exchange between mother and son. The handwriting is simple but clear, the paper modest. The letter begins with tender inquiries about his health and expressions of maternal pride. But then, it takes an unexpected turn. Son, I do not think you became a devotee of the Buddha because you desired to turn into a walking dictionary for others, she writes. There is no end to information and commentary, to glory and honor. Jiun's expression grows more serious as he continues reading. I wish you would stop this lecture business. Shut yourself up in a little temple in a remote part of the mountain. Devote your time to meditation and in this way attain true realization. The words, though gently delivered, carry the impact of a thunderclap. You can almost feel Jiun's shock as he reads his mother's frank assessment, not as a rebuke from a superior or challenge from a rival scholar, but as the straightforward counsel of someone who loves him deeply and sees him clearly. Jiun reads the letter again, slowly, his fingers tracing his mother's characters. His expression shifts from surprise to thoughtful reflection. He places the letter carefully on his desk and sits in silence for a long while, his brilliant mind now turned toward a different kind of contemplation. Over the following days, you observe a subtle transformation in Jiun. He continues his scholarly duties, but there is a new quality to his presence, a questioning, a seeking that goes beyond intellectual understanding. Often, you find him pausing in the midst of his work, his mother's letter in hand, rereading her simple yet profound counsel. A walking dictionary, he murmurs to himself one evening. Is that what I have become? One morning, Jiun calls his senior disciples together. The atmosphere is solemn as they gather, sensing that something important is about to occur. Jiun sits before them, his mother's letter placed carefully beside him. I have received wisdom from an unexpected source, he tells them, his voice steady but touched with emotion. My mother, who has never studied the sutras or engaged in scholarly debate, has nonetheless seen what I have been unable to see, that I have mistaken the finger pointing at the moon for the moon itself. He reads his mother's letter aloud, and you observe the reactions of his disciples: surprise, confusion, perhaps even a touch of resistance. They have built their identities around being students of the great scholar Jiun. What does this mean for them? I will complete my current teaching obligations, Jiun continues, but then I must follow this guidance. I will withdraw to a small temple in the mountains to devote myself to meditation. Some of you may wish to join me. Others may choose to continue your scholarly pursuits elsewhere. Both paths have value, but I now see that my own path must shift. True to his word, Jiun eventually withdraws from his prominent position. You find yourself following him to a tiny, neglected temple high in the mountains, days away from the nearest village. Here, surrounded by towering trees and visited occasionally by deer and other forest creatures, June establishes a simple practice community. The daily schedule is austere, rising before dawn for meditation, simple meals, work in the temple garden, more meditation. Gone are the elaborate lectures and prestigious visitors. In their place is a profound silence, broken only by the sounds of nature and the minimum of human speech required for communal living. One evening, as sunset bathes the mountains in golden light, you find June sitting on a stone overlooking the valley below. His face, once animated primarily by intellectual excitement, now reflects a different quality, a stillness, a presence that seems to extend beyond his physical form. The transformation is subtle but unmistakable. A young monk approaches hesitantly. "Master," he asks, "do you ever miss your life of scholarship and recognition?" June smiles, his eyes reflecting the golden light. "What my mother helped me to see," he replies, "is that knowledge without realization is like a magnificent map that one studies endlessly without ever taking the journey. I don't regret creating the map. It has value. But now I walk the actual path, and I discover that the territory is both simpler and more profound than any map could indicate." As darkness falls and you gradually return to your present awareness, consider the wisdom of June's mother. Though lacking formal education, she possessed the clarity to see what her accomplished son could not, that he had become entangled in the web of intellectual understanding at the expense of direct realization. This story illuminates a danger that exists on many spiritual paths, the confusion of knowledge about reality with the direct experience of reality itself. Buddhism, particularly in its more scholarly forms, can become an elaborate intellectual structure that actually distances us from the very awakening it was designed to facilitate. We can know everything about meditation, mindfulness, and enlightenment without ever genuinely practicing or experiencing these realities. The Zen tradition offers a powerful corrective to this tendency through its emphasis on direct experience beyond concepts. As the famous saying goes, the finger pointing to the moon is not the moon. The teachings, practices, and philosophies of Buddhism are merely fingers pointing toward the reality of our own awakened nature. If we fixate on the finger, becoming walking dictionaries of spiritual information, we miss the luminous reality to which it points. Notice how June's mother didn't criticize his scholarly work as worthless. Rather, she reminded him of his original motivation, not to accumulate knowledge or recognition, but to realize the truth of Buddha's teaching in his own experience. Her advice came not from a place of judgment, but from love and a simple wisdom that could see beyond the impressiveness of her son's accomplishments to what was missing in his development. As you drift towards sleep, consider where in your own life you might be mistaking information for transformation. Perhaps you've read many books on mindfulness or meditation but rarely find time to practice. Maybe you can explain complex spiritual concepts to others, but haven't allowed these truths to penetrate your own heart. Or perhaps Like Jiun, you've become so identified with your knowledge that you've lost touch with the simple, direct experience of being itself. Let Jiun's mother whisper to you as she did to her son, there is no end to information and commentary, to glory and honor. True peace, true awakening, comes not from what we know, but from how deeply we have allowed ourselves to be transformed by that knowing. Sometimes the wisest voice is not the most educated or celebrated, but the one that speaks from simple clarity and compassionate truth. Sometimes that voice comes from within us, if only we would create enough silence to hear it. Feel yourself drifting deeper now, your body becoming heavier as your mind grows lighter. The sounds of your environment fade as you journey to medieval Japan during the Tokugawa period. The air carries the scent of incense and cedar as you find yourself walking through a small village nestled at the foot of mist-covered mountains. Paper lanterns sway gently in the evening breeze, casting warm pools of light along the narrow streets. The village is abuzz with unusual activity. People gather in small groups, their voices hushed but animated as they discuss some recent event. You approach one such gathering and listen to their conversation. A merchant has reported that 50 rolls of valuable cotton cloth have been stolen while he was resting beneath the shelter of a large stone Buddha that stands at the village outskirts. Curious, you follow a winding path to this Buddha statue. It stands about 12 feet tall, carved from a single piece of granite, its weathered surface testifying to centuries of exposure to the elements. The Buddha's serene expression seems to gaze compassionately upon all who pass. At its base, you notice a small shelter, a simple roof supported by wooden posts, where travelers often rest during their journeys. As you stand contemplating the statue, a commotion draws your attention. A group of officials approaches, led by a distinguished-looking man whose presence commands immediate respect. This is Judge Oka, renowned throughout the region for his wisdom and unconventional methods of solving crimes. Judge Oka examines the scene carefully, questioning the merchant who sits dejected nearby. The merchant explains that he had stopped to rest beneath the Buddha during the heat of the day, placing his bundles of cotton goods beside him. He had fallen asleep briefly, and upon waking, discovered that his merchandise had vanished. After listening attentively, Judge Oka makes an announcement that leaves everyone stunned. That stone Buddha must have stolen the goods, he declares. It is supposed to care for the welfare of the people, but it has failed to perform its holy duty. Arrest it. Murmurs of confusion ripple through the gathering crowd. Has the respected judge lost his mind? How can one arrest a stone statue? Nevertheless, the judge's orders must be followed. Several police officers approach the massive statue, looking uncertainly at one another. With evident discomfort, they formally announce that the Buddha is under arrest and begin the absurd task of securing ropes around the immovable figure. Word of this extraordinary event spreads rapidly through the village and surrounding areas. By the next morning, a large crowd has gathered to witness the unprecedented spectacle of the stone Buddha being charged with theft. The crowd is boisterous, some laughing openly at the ridiculous situation, others speculating about the judge's mental state. Judge Oka arrives at the appointed hour and takes his seat at a temporary court set up in front of the Buddha. Instead of proceeding with the case, however, he suddenly turns his attention to the noisy spectators. His expression transforms from judicial solemnity to stern disapproval. "What right have you people to appear before the court laughing and joking in this manner?" he demands, his voice cutting through the chatter. "You are in contempt of court and subject to a fine and imprisonment." The crowd falls instantly silent, their amusement replaced by alarm. Being charged with contempt of court is no small matter in this era. Many bow their heads, offering hurried apologies for their disrespectful behavior. Judge Oka regards them sternly for a moment longer, then announces, "I shall have to impose a fine on you all." A collective murmur of distress rises from the crowd. Many are simple farmers or merchants who can ill afford additional expenses. But then the judge continues, "However, I will remit the fine on one condition. Each of you must bring one roll of cotton cloth to the court within 3 days. Anyone failing to do this will be arrested." You watch as understanding dawns on some faces in the crowd. This unusual penalty seems to have a purpose beyond mere punishment. But most simply nod in acceptance, relieved that they can avoid more severe consequences. 3 days later, you join the villagers as they return to the stone Buddha, each carrying a roll of cotton cloth as instructed. The rolls are collected and arranged before the judge. The merchant who reported the theft is also present, looking curiously at the growing pile of cloth. Judge Oka instructs the merchant to examine each roll. As the merchant handles the fabric, his eyes suddenly widen. He holds up one particular roll, his hands trembling slightly. "This one," he says, his voice tight with emotion. "This is mine. I recognize the unique pattern and the small repair I made near the edge." All eyes turn to the person who brought that particular roll. A young man stands frozen at the edge of the crowd, his face draining of color. As the police move toward him, he falls to his knees, confessing immediately. He had seen the merchant sleeping, taken advantage of the opportunity to steal the goods, and hidden most of the rolls in his home. Judge Oka nods, seemingly unsurprised by this outcome. He orders the thief into custody and ensures that all 50 rolls of the merchant's cloth are recovered and returned. Then, with a gesture that surprises everyone, he instructs that the remaining rolls of cloth, those brought by innocent villagers to satisfy their fine, be returned to their owners. As the crowd disperses, you linger, watching Judge Oka as he approaches the stone Buddha. He looks up at the statue's serene face and offers a small bow, as if acknowledging a silent partnership. You realize that you've witnessed not just clever detective work, but a profound understanding of human nature. Later, in a nearby tea house, you overhear villagers discussing the day's events. The judge knew that asking everyone for a roll of cloth would force the thief to produce one of the stolen rolls. An elderly man explains to his companions. The thief couldn't risk purchasing new cloth that might look different from the stolen goods, and he couldn't refuse to bring anything without raising suspicion. But why arrest the Buddha? A young woman asks. Why not simply order everyone to bring cloth from the beginning? The old man chuckles. That's the genius of it. By creating such an unusual spectacle, arresting a stone Buddha, he ensured that everyone in the village and surrounding areas would hear about it and come to watch. Had he simply announced that he needed cloth from everyone, the thief might have stayed away. He sips his tea thoughtfully. And by charging the crowd with contempt, he created a reason to demand the cloth that seemed unrelated to the theft itself. The judge understood not just law, adds another villager, but also human nature. He knew how to use our curiosity, our desire to witness something extraordinary, even our tendency to make light of unusual situations, all to serve justice. As you reflect on what you've witnessed, you recognize the deeper wisdom in Judge Oka's unconventional approach. Rather than relying on force or threats to discover the thief, methods that might or might not have succeeded, he created conditions where the truth would naturally reveal itself. Like a skilled Zen master, he understood that direct confrontation often creates resistance, while indirect methods can lead to revelation. The judge also demonstrated a principle central to Zen practice, that apparent absurdity can sometimes be the most direct path to truth. The notion of arresting a stone Buddha was, on its face, ridiculous. Yet this very absurdity created the perfect conditions for truth to emerge. Similarly, many Zen koans appear nonsensical on the surface, but are designed to break through our habitual patterns of thinking to reveal deeper insights. Perhaps most importantly, Judge Oka's method embodied compassion alongside justice. Rather than subjecting the entire village to house searches or aggressive interrogations, he created a situation where only the guilty party would be revealed. The innocent were briefly inconvenienced, but ultimately unharmed. Even the thief was given the opportunity to surrender the stolen goods and face the consequences of his actions in a relatively dignified manner. As you drift deeper towards sleep, consider where in your own life you might apply Judge Oka's wisdom. Where might indirect approaches be more effective than direct confrontation? How might apparent absurdity or playfulness create openings where seriousness creates walls? And how might you reveal truth without unnecessary harm to others? Like the stone Buddha with its enigmatic smile, sometimes the most profound wisdom appears in unexpected forms. The path to truth, like the path to justice, is rarely a straight line. It requires creativity, patience, and a deep understanding of human nature, qualities that Judge Oka possessed in abundance and that lie within you as well. Feel your body becoming heavier as your mind drifts deeper into relaxation. The boundaries between waking and dreaming begin to blur as you find yourself transported to a small farming village in ancient Japan. The air carries the earthy scent of rice fields and wood smoke as you walk along a narrow path winding between modest thatched homes. Children play with simple toys in the dirt, while adults tend to their daily tasks with practiced hands. You notice that despite the village's evident poverty, a small temple sits at its center, a humble wooden structure, but clearly built and maintained with care. From where you stand, you can see through its open doors to an altar where a bronze Buddha statue rests, its metal surface gleaming softly in the light of butter lamps. Villagers occasionally pause in their work to bow respectfully as they pass by the temple, some stopping briefly to offer a simple prayer. Among the villagers, one man draws your attention. Unlike the others, whose weathered faces reflect lives of hardship balanced with simple joys, this man's expression carries a peculiar intensity. He moves with purpose, his eyes often drawn to the temple as he goes about his work. Something about his demeanor suggests a complicated relationship with the sacred building and what it contains. As twilight approaches and the village activity quiets, you watch this man approach the temple. He removes his sandals and enters with a deep bow. From your vantage point, you can see him kneel before the Buddha statue, his head bowed in apparent devotion. He lights incense, its fragrant smoke curling upward in delicate spirals. He seems to be praying with unusual fervor, occasionally touching his forehead to the ground in prostration. This continues for some time, until the temple is empty of other visitors. As darkness falls outside, something unexpected happens. The man looks around carefully to ensure he is alone, then reaches into his sleeve and pulls out a small container. With deliberate movements, he opens it to reveal what appears to be black ink. To your astonishment, he dips his finger into the ink and reaches toward the Buddha statue's face. With careful precision, he paints the Buddha's nose black. You watch in bewilderment, trying to understand this strange act. Is it vandalism? Sacrilege? But the man's expression shows no malice. If anything, there's a curious mixture of reverence and mischief in his eyes. When he finishes, he bows deeply once more and leaves the temple as respectfully as he entered, returning to his home in the gathering darkness. The next morning, the village stirs with excitement and concern. The Buddha statue's black nose has been discovered, and people gather at the temple, their voices a mixture of outrage and bewilderment. Who would dare to deface the sacred image? What might this sacrilege mean for the village? Will the gods send misfortune as punishment? The village headman decides to keep watch that night. Hidden in the shadows of the temple, he waits patiently for the culprit to return. Sure enough, as midnight approaches, the same man enters, performs his devotions, and once again carefully repaints the Buddha's nose, which had been cleaned earlier that day. The headman steps from the shadows. "Why are you doing this?" he demands, his voice stern but controlled. "Do you not fear the consequences of defacing our sacred Buddha?" The man turns, startled, but not afraid. After a moment of silence, he speaks with unexpected sincerity. "Honored headman, I mean no disrespect. This Buddha has been in our village for generations, watching over us through floods and droughts, through good harvests and bad. I paint his nose black because I wish him to remain with us." The headman's brow furrows in confusion. How does painting the Buddha's nose black keep him with us? 3 villages away, the man explains, there is a wealthy town with a grand temple. I have heard their priests speak of acquiring our Buddha for their collection, saying it is wasted in such a poor village. But who would want a Buddha with a black nose? By making him imperfect in their eyes, I make sure he remains perfect for our needs, here, among those who truly love him, not for his beauty but for his presence in our lives. The headman stands silent, absorbing this unexpected explanation. What had seemed like desecration now reveals itself as an act of profound, if unorthodox, devotion. After careful consideration, he nods slowly. Your heart is pure, though your methods are strange. The Buddha sees intention, not appearance. But from now on, let us find another way to protect our temple treasure. In the days that follow, the village devises a simpler solution. They remove the valuable bronze Buddha to a safe hiding place and replace it with a wooden replica. The black-nosed original is brought out only for special ceremonies. Its imperfection, now understood by the villagers as a mark of their community's unique relationship with the divine. What began as a seeming act of irreverence has transformed into a deeper understanding of true reverence. As this story settles into your awareness, consider its subtle wisdom about the nature of true devotion. On the surface, painting the Buddha's nose black appears disrespectful, a violation of the conventional ways we honor what we consider sacred. Yet beneath this apparent irreverence lay a deeper reverence, a sincere desire to keep the Buddha present in the community that truly valued him. This paradox, that apparent irreverence can sometimes contain profound reverence, appears throughout the Zen tradition. Consider the famous Zen saying, "If you meet the Buddha on the road, kill him." On its face, this appears shockingly irreverent. Yet its deeper meaning points to the danger of becoming attached to external forms and symbols of enlightenment rather than realizing the Buddha nature within yourself. Sometimes, what appears to be spiritual irreverence is actually a protection against the more subtle sacrilege of mistaking the finger for the moon, the symbol for what it symbolizes. The villager with his pot of black ink understood something that the wealthier temple with its collection of perfect statues did not, that the value of the Buddha image lay not in its artistic perfection or material worth, but in its living presence within a community of sincere practitioners. By making the statue imperfect, in conventional terms, he preserved its perfect function to serve as a focus for genuine devotion. In your own spiritual practice, notice where you might be confusing outer perfection with inner sincerity. Perhaps you've been hesitant to meditate because you can't sit in perfect posture for extended periods. Maybe you've avoided certain practices because you can't perform them exactly as prescribed. Or perhaps you've judged your practice as inadequate because it doesn't match some idealized image of what spirituality should look like. The black-nosed Buddha reminds us that true reverence often lies in the sincerity of our intention rather than the perfection of our form. Sometimes, what appears as an imperfection from one perspective is precisely what makes something perfect for its true purpose. The crack in the temple bell that gives its ring a distinctive tone, the worn prayer beads that carry the devotion of generations in their smooth surfaces, the simple home altar that may not impress visitors but holds genuine meaning for the family. These imperfections can be the very markers of authentic spiritual life. As you drift deeper towards sleep, consider what black-nosed Buddhas might exist in your own life, those apparently imperfect elements that actually serve a perfect purpose. Can you, like the village headman, shift your perspective to see the deep reverence that might lie within apparent irreverence? Can you recognize how what seems flawed from one perspective might be precisely what makes something valuable from another? Perhaps the greatest wisdom of the black-nosed Buddha is the reminder that the sacred doesn't need our protection nearly as much as it needs our sincere connection. The divine, in whatever form we understand it, is not diminished by a bit of black ink, but it might well be diminished by spiritual practices performed perfectly yet without heart. In your own way, with your own imperfect practice, you too honor the essence rather than merely the appearance of what is truly sacred. Allow your body to release any remaining tension as you sink deeper into comfortable relaxation. The boundaries of time and space begin to dissolve as you find yourself transported to ancient India over 500 years ago. The air is warm and fragrant with the scent of tropical flowers as you approach a serene hillside known as Vulture Peak. The setting sun bathes everything in golden light, casting long shadows across the lush landscape. You notice a large gathering on the hillside, hundreds of monks in simple robes seated in concentric semicircles. Their faces reflect attentive anticipation as they wait in perfect stillness. At the center of this human lotus flower sits Gautama Buddha himself, his presence radiating both profound peace and alert awareness. You recognize many of his chief disciples: Ananda with his compassionate expression, serious Sariputra known for his intellectual brilliance, and the elderly Mahakashyapa, whose weathered face reflects decades of dedicated practice. This appears to be no ordinary assembly. Word has spread that the Buddha will deliver an important discourse today, and monks have traveled from throughout the region to hear his teaching. As you find a place among them, you sense the collective anticipation, a shared expectancy that wisdom of particular significance will soon be revealed. The Buddha sits in perfect meditation posture, his eyes gently open, his hands resting in his lap. The assembly waits in respectful silence. Minutes pass. The silence deepens. You notice how the quality of the silence itself seems to shift from expectant to questioning to, finally, a spacious receptivity that transcends the need for words. Without speaking, the Buddha slowly raises his right hand. Between his fingers, he holds a single white lotus flower, freshly picked and still glistening with morning dew. He makes no gesture with it, offers no explanation. He simply holds it up before the assembly, his gaze moving slowly across the gathered disciples. The monks appear confused. They exchange questioning glances. Is this a new teaching method? Is there symbolic significance to the flower that they should understand? Is the Buddha waiting for a particular question before beginning his discourse? A subtle restlessness ripples through the assembly as the silent moments extend into minutes. Throughout the gathering, only one response emerges that differs from the general confusion. Mahakashyapa, seated near the front, looks at the Buddha and the flower, and his face breaks into a gentle smile. It's not a smile of amusement or even just appreciation, but one of profound recognition, as if through this wordless gesture, something essential has been perfectly communicated between master and disciple. The Buddha's eyes meet Mahakashyapa's, and his own face mirrors the smile. Then, finally breaking the silence, the Buddha speaks. I possess the true Dharma I, the marvelous mind of nirvana, the true form of the formless, the subtle Dharma gate that does not rest on words or letters, but is a special transmission outside of the scriptures. This I entrust to Mahakashyapa. With these words, something momentous has occurred, though many present don't yet realize it. In this seemingly simple exchange, the Buddha has transmitted the essence of Zen, acknowledging Mahakashyapa as the first patriarch of what will eventually become the Zen lineage. A teaching too profound for words has been passed through a silent understanding, through nothing more than a flower and a smile. As the assembly disperses, you notice some disciples gathering around Ananda, the Buddha's attendant, known for his perfect memory and detailed recounting of all the Buddha's teachings. What was the meaning of the flower? They ask. What did the master intend to convey? And why did he single out Mahakashyapa? Ananda, for once, has no explanation to offer. His specialty has always been remembering and clarifying the Buddha's verbal teachings. This wordless transmission lies outside his expertise. Something unprecedented has occurred, a direct pointing to reality itself, beyond the capacities of language, beyond even the brilliant conceptual frameworks of Buddhist philosophy. Later, you find yourself near Mahakashyapa, who sits quietly beneath a Bodhi tree, his face still carrying a trace of that knowing smile. A younger monk approaches him hesitantly. Master, the young monk asks, what did you understand when the Buddha held up the flower? What insight caused you to smile? Mahakashyapa looks at the young monk with kind eyes. Instead of answering directly, he points to a bird singing in a nearby tree. For a moment, they both listen to its clear, simple notes, piercing the evening air. Then Mahakashyapa asks, "Do you hear that?" "Yes, of course," replies the monk, clearly waiting for the explanation that will follow this seemingly irrelevant question. "That is your answer," says Mahakashyapa. The young monk's face registers confusion, then frustration. He begins to frame another question, but Mahakashyapa gently places his hand on the young monk's shoulder and smiles again, the same smile that had answered the Buddha's flower. In that moment, something shifts in the young monk's expression. Perhaps he hasn't fully understood, but he has glimpsed that what Mahakashyapa is pointing to lies beyond the realm of explanations. This simple yet profound story marks what many consider the birth of Zen Buddhism. In this flower sermon, as it came to be known, we witness the emergence of a tradition that would place special emphasis on direct transmission of wisdom beyond words and concepts. While other Buddhist schools developed elaborate philosophical systems and extensive commentaries on the sutras, Zen would maintain this focus on immediate, wordless insight, the direct perception of reality unmediated by conceptual thought. What was it that Mahakashyapa understood when he saw the Buddha's flower? What caused him to smile while others sat in confusion? The story itself refuses to explain, and this refusal is integral to its teaching. If Mahakashyapa's realization could be captured in words, the Buddha would simply have spoken those words rather than holding up the flower. The very point of the gesture was to indicate something that transcends verbal expression. Yet we might approach an understanding through what Zen would later call direct pointing. Perhaps Mahakashyapa saw not just a flower but flower nature in its completeness, the entire universe expressing itself as this particular flower in this particular moment. Perhaps he recognized that the flower, the Buddha, himself, and all of existence were not separate entities, but manifestations of a single, seamless reality. Perhaps he understood that the truth the Buddha had been teaching through countless sermons was fully present in this simple, wordless gesture, immediate, perfect, and complete. The smile itself is significant. It wasn't the smile of someone who has figured out a puzzle or grasped a new concept. It was the smile of recognition, the response of one who sees something so simple and obvious that it bypasses the thinking mind entirely. It's the smile that might arise when you suddenly recognize an old friend in a crowd, or when you awaken from a confusing dream to the clarity of ordinary reality. It's not about acquiring new knowledge, but about recognizing what has been present all along. This story reminds us that spiritual truth is not primarily a matter of accumulating concepts, refining beliefs, or mastering texts, though these may have their place. At its heart, spiritual awakening is about direct perception of reality as it is. The Buddha's flower didn't represent some abstract truth. It was itself the complete expression of the truth he had realized under the Bodhi tree. Mahakashyapa's smile didn't signify his understanding of a teaching about reality. It was the natural response of one who sees reality directly. As you drift towards sleep, consider where in your own life you might be seeking through concepts and words what can only be found through direct experience. Perhaps you've read many books about meditation without sitting in silence. Maybe you can explain spiritual principles eloquently while missing their lived reality. Or perhaps you've been waiting for some complex explanation when the truth is as simple and immediate as a flower held in the hand. The Buddha's flower continues to be held up across the centuries, inviting not understanding but recognition, not knowledge but direct seeing. Like Mahakashyapa, you too carry the capacity for that recognition, the ability to perceive, beyond all concepts and explanations, the simple wonder of existence as it expresses itself in each moment. And perhaps in that recognition, in your own way, at your own time, a smile might naturally arise, the smile that answers the flower's silent teaching with the heart's wordless understanding. Feel yourself sinking deeper into peaceful relaxation, your body becoming heavier as your mind grows lighter. The gentle darkness behind your closed eyelids transforms into a scene from late 19th century Japan, during the Meiji era, a time of rapid modernization when Western influences were dramatically changing the country's ancient ways. You find yourself in the outskirts of Kyoto, approaching a venerable Zen temple named Tofuku. The temple grounds are immaculately maintained, with raked gravel gardens and ancient pines sculpted by generations of careful pruning. Inside this temple lives a renowned Zen master named Keichu. Though not seeking fame or influence, his reputation for wisdom and directness has spread throughout the region. Many come seeking his guidance: monks, merchants, farmers, and occasionally even government officials. Keichu receives them all with the same unpretentious presence, offering each exactly what they need, often in unexpected ways. As you approach the temple gates, you notice unusual activity, attendants in formal dress arriving ahead of an important visitor. Their manner suggests someone of high rank is expected. You learn from conversation among temple monks that the governor of Kyoto, Kitagaki, has announced his intention to visit Master Keichu today. This is significant, as Kitagaki is known for his progressive policies and interest in preserving Japanese cultural traditions despite the rush toward westernization. The temple attendants seem somewhat nervous about this prestigious visit. They bustle about, ensuring everything is in perfect order. One monk carries a tray with the governor's calling card, an elegant piece of thick paper with Kitagaki, Governor of Kyoto, printed in fine calligraphy. He approaches Keichu's modest quarters to announce the imminent arrival. You follow discreetly, curious about how the humble Zen master will receive this powerful official. The attendant kneels outside Keichu's door, announces the visitor, and presents the calling card. From your vantage point, you can see Keichu glance at the card without picking it up. His weather-worn face remains impassive as he speaks words that shock the attendant. "I have no business with such a fellow. Tell him to get out of here." The attendant's face pales. Such a response to the governor could have serious consequences for the temple. Stammering apologies, he backs away, unsure how to convey this rejection to Kitagaki without causing offense. When the governor arrives minutes later, a dignified man in Western-style formal dress with traditional Japanese elements, the flustered attendant approaches him with visible anxiety. Bowing repeatedly, he explains the situation. Your Excellency, there has been an unfortunate misunderstanding. Master Keichu says he has no business with the governor of Kyoto and asks that you leave. To everyone's surprise, Governor Kitagaki doesn't appear angry. Instead, a thoughtful expression crosses his face. After a moment of reflection, he nods slightly. I see. My approach was incorrect. He takes back his calling card and, with a small pencil from his pocket, crosses out the words, Governor of Kyoto. Please take this back to Master Keichu, he says, handing the modified card to the attendant. Tell him Kitagaki requests the honor of his company. The attendant hurries back to Keichu's quarters, presenting the altered card with trepidation. This time, Keichu's reaction is entirely different. His face brightens with a warm smile as he reads the simple name. Ah, is that Kitagaki? I want to see that fellow. Within moments, the governor is welcomed into Keichu's modest room. You observe from a respectful distance as these two men, one a political leader in modern Japan, the other a keeper of ancient wisdom, sit together in animated conversation. The formality that typically surrounds the governor has vanished, replaced by the natural human connection of two individuals, meeting without the barrier of titles or positions. Their laughter occasionally carries across the temple garden, suggesting a genuine meeting of minds rather than a formal official visit. Later, as Governor Kitagaki prepares to leave, you notice a subtle but significant change in his demeanor. He moves with the same authority as before, but there's a new lightness to his step, a clarity in his gaze that wasn't present when he arrived. Whatever transpired in his conversation with Keichu seems to have affected him deeply. Before departing, Kitagaki bows to Keichu with genuine respect, not the formal bow of a governor to a subject, but the bow of one human being to another whom he recognizes as a genuine teacher. Thank you for receiving Kitagaki, he says with a smile, emphasizing his name without his title. Keichu returns the bow with equal respect. It was my pleasure to meet such a fellow, he responds with twinkling eyes. Please come again when you are just Kitagaki. This simple story reveals a profound truth about human connection and the barriers we place between ourselves and authentic experience. Master Keichu's refusal to meet with the governor of Kyoto wasn't rudeness or political statement. It was a direct pointing to a deeper reality that Kitagaki himself immediately understood once it was brought to his attention. By refusing to receive the governor but welcoming Kitagaki the man, Keichu demonstrated the Zen principle of seeing beyond social roles to the essential nature beneath. Titles, positions, and social identities, what Zen might call form, are necessary conventions for organizing society. But when we identify too strongly with these roles, we create barriers that prevent genuine human connection and direct experience of reality. We begin to believe we are our titles, forgetting the unnameable essence that lies beneath all such designations. Governor Kitagaki showed remarkable wisdom in his response. Rather than taking offense, he immediately understood the teaching being offered. By literally crossing out his title, he performed a physical act that represented a deeper psychological shift, temporarily setting aside his social identity to meet the Zen master as one human being to another. This willingness to step outside his official role, even briefly, allowed for an authentic exchange that would have been impossible within the constraints of formal hierarchy. We all carry calling cards that announce our identities to the world, not just our professional titles, but all the ways we define and present ourselves to others. Parent, spouse, expert, achiever, helper, victim. These identities serve practical purposes in social interaction, but they can also become prisons that limit our capacity for genuine presence and connection. Zen practice invites us to periodically cross out these identities, not to discard them entirely, as they serve necessary functions in daily life, but to recognize that they are not who we fundamentally are. When we can set aside our curated self-images and meet life directly, without the filter of our accumulated identities, we open ourselves to the kind of authentic exchange that Kitagaki and Keichu enjoyed. Consider your own various titles and how they might be both useful and limiting. Perhaps being known as the responsible one ensures that others trust you, but prevents them from seeing your playful side. Maybe your identity as the expert in your field brings professional recognition, but makes it difficult to admit when you don't know something. Or your role as the helper allows you to contribute to others' well-being, but makes it challenging to receive help when you need it. As you drift towards sleep, imagine taking out your own calling card, the one that lists all your primary identities and roles. Like Governor Kitagaki, experiment with temporarily crossing out these titles. What remains when you're not defined by what you do, what you know, or how others perceive you? Who are you in the silence between thoughts, in the space beyond names and forms? This nameless essence, what Zen might call your original face before you were born, is what Keichu wanted to meet, and what Kitagaki had the wisdom to reveal. Tonight, rest as that which cannot be named or titled, the awareness that witnesses all experiences, but is itself free from all designations. Like Kitagaki setting aside his governorship to meet the Zen master directly, allow yourself to set aside your accumulated identities and rest in the simple, unadorned presence that is your most fundamental nature. From this spacious awareness, genuine connection with yourself, with others, with life itself, naturally emerges. Feel your body becoming increasingly relaxed with each breath. Your thoughts beginning to quiet as you journey to another time and place. The modern world fades away as you find yourself in a traditional Japanese Zen monastery nestled among misty mountains. The air carries the scent of pine and wood smoke as you approach a cluster of simple wooden buildings surrounded by carefully tended gardens. This is the monastery of the renowned Zen master Bankei, whose teaching of the unborn Buddha mind has attracted students from throughout Japan. Unlike many strict Zen teachers of his era, Bankei is known for his compassionate approach and ability to express profound truths in language accessible to everyone, from scholarly monks to illiterate farmers. His monastery houses both dedicated disciples who have trained for many years and newcomers just beginning their spiritual journey. You find yourself drawn to the monastery kitchen, where the day's first meal is being prepared. Steam rises from large pots of rice as monks move with focused attention through their assigned tasks. In Zen monasteries, kitchen work is considered sacred, not merely a practical necessity, but an opportunity for mindfulness practice, where every chopped vegetable and washed bowl becomes a vehicle for awakening. Overseeing this activity is a monk named Daio, who serves as the tenzo, the head cook responsible for all meals. This is a position of significant responsibility in the monastery hierarchy. The tenzo must ensure that meals are nutritious, timely, and prepared with the utmost mindfulness, as the physical well-being of the entire community depends on his work. Daio takes this responsibility seriously, his movements efficient and precise as he directs the kitchen activities. As preparations for the morning meal near completion, Daio inspects each dish before it leaves the kitchen. One pot contains miso, the fermented soybean paste that forms the base of the daily soup. You notice a particular attention in Dairyo's examination of this dish. He seems to be checking its freshness with special care. According to monastery tradition, Bankei, as the abbot, is served first and separately from the other monks. His meals are prepared with special attention, not as a luxury but to support his teaching activities. This morning, as always, Dairyo personally arranges Bankei's tray, including a bowl of the fresh miso soup, before sending it to the master's quarters with a novice monk. Shortly afterward, the rest of the community gathers in the meditation hall for their meal, which begins and ends with ritual chants offering gratitude for the food. Eating takes place in mindful silence, with each monk fully present to the experience of nourishment. Later that morning, you observe an unusual scene outside the kitchen. Bankei himself approaches, carrying the tray from his breakfast. His expression is serious as he asks for Dairyo. When the head cook appears, Bankei holds out a bowl that still contains some soup. In the bottom of the bowl is a small dead lizard. A ripple of tension moves through the novice monks who have gathered to watch. Such a serious oversight, serving the master food containing something impure, could result in severe consequences. In the strict hierarchy of traditional Zen training, the head cook might be publicly reprimanded or even dismissed from his position. Dairyo approaches Bankei and looks at the dead lizard in the bowl. Without hesitation or defensiveness, he bows deeply. "I am sorry, Master," he says with genuine regret. Then, to everyone's astonishment, he takes the bowl from Bankei's hands, picks up the dead lizard, and eats it. He then drinks the remaining soup. A collective gasp rises from the watching novices. Eating something impure, especially something that had died in food, violates not just culinary standards, but deeper cultural and religious taboos in Japanese Buddhism. Daio's action seems incomprehensible. Bankei watches Daio with a still expression that reveals neither approval nor disapproval. After a moment of silence that seems to stretch into eternity, he simply nods once and returns to his quarters without another word. No punishment is given, no further mention made of the incident. Later that day, you overhear several novice monks discussing what they witnessed. They are trying to understand the meaning of Dairyo's shocking action and Bankei's response. One suggests that Dairyo ate the lizard out of fear of punishment. Another believes it was a demonstration of extreme asceticism. A third wonders if it was simply a desperate attempt to hide the evidence of his mistake. An elder monk who has trained under Bankei for many years overhears their speculation and joins their circle. "You have all missed the point," he says quietly. "What you witnessed was neither fear, asceticism, nor deception. Dairyo's action embodied true responsibility. When we truly take responsibility, we don't make excuses or point fingers. We eat the consequences of our actions, literally in this case." "But couldn't he have simply apologized?" asks one of the novices. The elder monk smiles. "Words are cheap. Anyone can say, 'I'm sorry,' while inwardly making excuses or blaming circumstances. Dairyo didn't just acknowledge his mistake verbally, he fully embodied his responsibility by consuming the very consequence of his oversight. There was nothing left to discuss because the matter was completely resolved in that single action." Another novice speaks up. "Is that why Master Bankei said nothing more about it?" "Exactly," replies the elder. "When someone fully owns their mistake, without any trace of excuse or evasion, what more is there to say?" Bankei recognized Dairyo's profound understanding and responded with equal clarity by allowing the matter to be completely finished. This remarkable story illuminates the Zen approach to responsibility and error. In our usual thinking, we often respond to mistakes with a complex internal process. First denial, then excuse, making, followed perhaps by reluctant admission, blame, shifting, promises of future improvement, and requests for forgiveness. This elaborate dance around error actually prevents us from fully experiencing and integrating the consequences of our actions. Dairyo demonstrates a radically different approach, what we might call eating the blame. Rather than engaging in explanation or justification, he literally consumes the evidence of his oversight. This physical act perfectly embodies the Zen principle of direct action without the intermediary of excessive thought or speech. There is a mistake. He acknowledges it. He consumes it completely. The matter is finished. Notice the profound emotional freedom in this approach. When we fully accept responsibility, without any trace of defensiveness, we experience a paradoxical lightness. There is nothing to protect, nothing to defend, no elaborate narrative to maintain. This is remarkably different from our usual experience of making mistakes, where we often carry the heavy burden of justification, fear of judgment, and lingering shame. Bankei's response is equally instructive. He doesn't press the point, demand further apology, or use the incident as a teaching opportunity. He recognizes that Daryo's action is complete in itself, a perfect expression of understanding that requires no elaboration. By simply nodding and walking away, Bankei acknowledges the completeness of Daryo's response and allows the incident to be truly finished. In our personal relationships, how often do we keep mistakes alive through repeated reference, continuing blame, or demands for multiple apologies? Even after someone has acknowledged an error, we might continue to mention it, subtly punishing them or using it as leverage in future disagreements. Bankei demonstrates a more liberating approach. When responsibility is fully taken, the matter is completely closed, leaving no residue of resentment or recrimination. It's worth noting that Daryo's action, while dramatic, wasn't performed as a public demonstration of virtue. He wasn't trying to impress Bankei or the other monks with his willingness to eat something impure. His action arose naturally from his deep understanding of responsibility. This points to another Zen principle, that true virtue isn't something we put on for others to see, but arises spontaneously from genuine realization. As you drift towards sleep, consider where in your life you might practice eating the blame. Where might you move from elaborate explanation to simple acknowledgement? From partial admissions couched in justifications to complete acceptance of responsibility? From verbal apologies to embodied action that makes things right? This practice doesn't mean taking blame for things that aren't your responsibility. That would be another form of evasion. Rather, it means fully acknowledging your part in situations without deflection or excuse. Like Dairyo with his lizard, you might find that when you fully consume your mistakes, rather than trying to explain them away, they are completely digested and transformed, leaving you lighter and freer to continue on your path. And like Bankei, you might discover that when others truly take responsibility, the most compassionate response is simply to allow the matter to be finished. Allow yourself to settle more deeply into comfort, your breath becoming slow and rhythmic. Feel the gentle weight of your body against the surface supporting you as your mind begins to drift. The boundaries of your everyday awareness soften as you journey to Japan during the early Meiji period, a time of profound transition as the country began opening to Western influences after centuries of isolation. You find yourself on a forested mountain path, leading to a renowned Zen temple. The temple belongs to Nanin, a Zen master whose piercing insight and uncompromising teaching have attracted serious students from throughout Japan. Unlike some masters who rely on dramatic methods or elaborate explanations, Nanin's approach is direct and subtle, often revealing profound truths through the simplest of gestures or observations. The temple itself reflects this quality, elegant in its simplicity, with clean lines and unadorned spaces that direct attention to the essential. As you approach the main gate, you notice a young monk sweeping the stone path with deliberate, mindful movements. This is Tenno, who has recently completed his 10-year apprenticeship under another teacher. Though technically no longer a novice, Tenno recognizes that his understanding remains incomplete. He has come to Nanin seeking further refinement of his practice and deeper insight into the nature of Zen. Tenno has already been with Nanin for several months. Each day follows a rigorous schedule of meditation, work practice, and study. You've observed that Tenno approaches these activities with admirable discipline and sincerity. His meditation posture is impeccable, his work thorough, his conduct respectful. By all conventional measures, he appears to be an exemplary Zen student. This morning, after completing his assigned tasks, Tenno approaches Nanin's quarters for Sanzen, the private interview between master and student that is at the heart of Zen training. These meetings typically focus on the student's understanding of assigned koans or direct questions about their practice. You follow at a respectful distance, curious about what will transpire between them. As is customary, Tenno kneels outside Nanin's door, bows, and announces his presence with a small wooden gong. From inside, Nanin's voice invites him to enter. The master sits in simple robes on a cushion, his weathered face revealing little expression as Tenno bows and takes his place across from him. "How is your practice progressing?" Nan-in asks, his voice neither warm nor cold, but attentive. "I believe I am making steady progress, Master," Tenno responds. "I maintain mindfulness during seated meditation, walking practice, and temple work. I observe the precepts with care and study the sutras diligently." Nanin nods slightly. His next question comes unexpectedly. "And when you sleep?" Tenno hesitates, clearly caught off guard. I do not know how to practice while sleeping, Master." "Then your practice is not yet complete," Nan-in states simply. He reaches for his tea bowl, indicating that the interview is finished. Tenno bows and withdraws, his face reflecting confusion and concern. Over the following days, you notice him approaching his practice with even greater intensity, extending his meditation sessions, performing his tasks with painstaking attention, and studying late into the night. Yet when he returns for his next interview with Nanin, the exchange follows a similar pattern. "Have you learned to practice while sleeping?" Nanin asks. Tenno bows his head. "Not yet, Master. But I have increased my waking practice. I now meditate before dawn and continue until late evening." "That is commendable, Nan-in acknowledges, but your practice remains incomplete." This pattern continues for several months. Tenno exhausts himself with ever more rigorous practice during waking hours, yet Nanin's assessment remains unchanged. You begin to notice the physical toll on Tenno. His face grows gaunt, dark circles form under his eyes, and his movements, though still mindful, carry a quality of strain rather than natural presence. One day, as autumn leaves begin to fall, something shifts. Instead of intensifying his formal practice even further, Tenno appears to step back. He continues his daily activities but with a different quality, less striving, more ease. He begins to take afternoon walks in the forest. Sometimes he sits by the stream near the temple, doing nothing in particular. He even allows himself adequate rest at night, rather than pushing his body to extremes of wakefulness. When Tenno next appears for his interview with Nanin, a subtle change is evident in his demeanor. There is a natural relaxation in his posture, a clarity in his eyes that wasn't visible before. After the customary bows, Nanin again asks his question, "Have you learned to practice while sleeping?" "Master," Tenno responds with a small smile, "when I sleep, I just sleep." Nanin's face breaks into a warm smile, the first you've seen from the usually reserved master. "Now your practice is beginning to mature," he says. "When you sit, just sit. When you walk, just walk. And when you sleep, just sleep." This is the heart of Zen, to be completely present in each activity, without adding anything extra. From that day forward, Tenno's training with Nanin takes on a new dimension. Rather than focusing solely on formal meditation periods, Nanin begins to emphasize what might be called every-minute Zen, the practice of bringing complete presence to each moment of daily life. Whether eating, cleaning, conversing, or resting, Tenno learns to be fully there, without division or distraction. Years later, when Tenno has become a teacher in his own right, a student asks him about the most important turning point in his training. Tenno smiles and shares the story of his struggle to practice while sleeping. "I had been approaching Zen as something to achieve, a state to attain through effort," he explains. "What Nan-in helped me realize was that authentic practice isn't about adding a special Zen quality to our activities. It's about removing the barriers to fully experiencing what is already here. When we sleep, we completely become sleep. When we eat, we completely become eating. No separation, no observer standing apart from experience. This is every-minute Zen." This simple yet profound story illuminates several essential aspects of authentic spiritual practice. First is the trap that Tenno initially fell into, the mistake of compartmentalizing practice, seeing it as something we do during certain designated activities but not others. Many of us make this same error, believing that spirituality happens in meditation halls, yoga studios, or houses of worship, but remains separate from ordinary life. We create an artificial division between sacred and secular, practice time, and the rest of our day. Nanin's persistent question about practicing while sleeping challenged this compartmentalization. Sleep represents the ultimate non-doing state. We cannot approach it through effort or control. We cannot force ourselves to sleep through willpower, nor can we remain consciously vigilant while sleeping. By highlighting this apparent paradox, Nanin was pointing to a fundamental misunderstanding about the nature of practice itself. Notice how Tenno initially responded by intensifying his efforts during waking hours, a common but misguided approach when we feel our practice is inadequate. We often believe that if our meditation, prayer, or other spiritual activities aren't yielding the results we seek, we simply need to do more of them or perform them more rigorously. This approach reflects a fundamental misunderstanding of spiritual practice as primarily a doing rather than a being. The breakthrough came when Tenno shifted from striving to allowing, from trying to practice sleep to simply sleeping. This represents a profound shift from practice as a special activity we perform to practice as the direct, unmediated experience of whatever is happening. When we fully inhabit each moment without adding anything extra, when we just sleep while sleeping, just eat while eating, just sit while sitting, we discover the heart of Zen. This quality of complete presence has been described by Zen master Dogen as body and mind dropping away. It's not that the body and mind disappear, but rather that the sense of a separate self managing the experience falls away. There is just the pure experience itself, undivided, unmediated, complete. This is what Nanin meant by every minute Zen, a practice not confined to special times or activities, but available in each moment of life. The paradox which Tenno eventually discovered is that this complete presence often emerges naturally when we stop trying so hard to practice in the conventional sense. His breakthrough came not by intensifying effort, but by allowing a natural relaxation into the reality of each moment. This doesn't mean abandoning formal practice periods, which provide important training and support, but rather understanding their true purpose, not as special spiritual times, distinct from ordinary life, but as concentrated opportunities to cultivate the awareness that can permeate every moment. As you drift towards sleep, consider your own relationship with practice. Do you, like Tenno initially, compartmentalize your spiritual life? Do you have designated practice times that seem disconnected from the rest of your experience? Can you sense the possibility of an every-minute Zen that embraces all activities, from the sublime to the mundane, from active engagement to complete rest? Perhaps tonight, as you transition into sleep, you might experiment with Tenno's discovery. Rather than trying to maintain awareness during sleep, which creates a division between the observer and the experience, simply allow yourself to fully become sleep. No separation, no effort, no practice, just the complete embrace of what is already naturally occurring. This is not the abandonment of practice, but its fulfillment, the discovery that when we drop all trying, even the trying to practice, what remains is the natural wakeful awareness that has been present all along. As you release into sleep, allow Nanin's wisdom to accompany you. When you sleep, just sleep. Feel your body growing heavier, your breath slower and deeper with each passing moment. The concerns of your day gradually dissolve as you journey to a different time and place. The familiar surroundings of your room fade away, replaced by the sights, sounds, and scents of ancient Japan. You find yourself approaching a modest temple nestled among pine-covered hills. This temple is known not for its grandeur or famous lineage, but for the wisdom of its elderly master. Though his name has been forgotten in historical records, his teachings live on through stories passed down through generations of students. The temple grounds are simple, but meticulously maintained, Stone pathways swept clean, gardens tended with care, buildings modest but in good repair. The atmosphere reflects the master's teaching style, unpretentious, practical, and directly addressing the challenges of everyday life. As you approach the main hall, you notice unusual activity. A prosperous merchant has arrived with his entourage, servants carrying elaborate gifts, fine horses tethered nearby, the merchant himself dressed in silk robes that mark his wealth and status. Such a visitor is uncommon at this humble temple, which typically attracts local farmers, tradespeople, and the occasional wandering monk. The merchant appears to be in his middle years, with the confident bearing of one accustomed to respect and deference. Yet there is something in his expression, a subtle tension around his eyes, a slight furrow in his brow, that suggests inner disquiet beneath his prosperous exterior. He has come seeking something that his wealth has been unable to provide. You follow at a respectful distance as the temple attendants guide the merchant to the master's quarters. The old teacher receives him simply, seated on a worn cushion in a room whose only adornments are a scroll with calligraphy and a small vase holding a single flower. The contrast between the merchant's finery and the master's plain surroundings could not be more striking. After the customary greetings and tea, the merchant explains the purpose of his visit. "Venerable Master," he begins, his voice carrying the refined accent of the capital, "I have achieved considerable success in my business enterprises. My warehouses are filled with goods, my ships sail to distant ports, and my home lacks no comfort or luxury." He pauses, his expression shifting subtly. "And yet, despite these accomplishments, I find no lasting satisfaction. A sense of emptiness persists that no acquisition seems able to fill." The master listens attentively, his weathered face revealing neither judgment nor surprise. When the merchant finishes, the old teacher asks simply, "What do you seek?" The merchant considers this question carefully. "I believe I seek peace of mind," he finally responds. "And perhaps a way to use my resources that brings genuine fulfillment rather than merely adding to my possessions." The master nods, then poses another question. "In your business dealings, what principle guides your determination of fair prices?" Caught off guard by this seemingly unrelated inquiry, the merchant nevertheless answers thoughtfully. "I consider the cost of materials, the labor involved, the rarity of the item, and what the market will bear. For unique goods, I might increase the price considerably, while common items command only a modest profit. This is the standard practice among merchants. And in your charitable giving," the master continues, "what principle determines the amount you contribute?" The merchant shifts uncomfortably. "I give, according to what seems appropriate for a man of my position. For public projects that bring recognition, I might give substantial amounts. For lesser causes, smaller donations suffice." The master's expression remains unchanged, but his next question penetrates deeper. "And how do you determine the value of a human life?" The merchant looks genuinely perplexed. "I don't understand, Master. How can one assign value to a life? Yet you do so regularly," the Master responds quietly. "When you decide how much profit to extract from those who labor for you, when you determine what portion of your wealth to share with those in need, when you pass a beggar on the street and decide whether to look away or offer assistance, in all these moments you are assigning value to human lives, including your own." A long silence follows as the merchant absorbs this perspective. Finally, he asks, "How then should I determine the proportion of my wealth to share with others?" Instead of answering directly, the Master stands and gestures for the merchant to follow him outside. They walk to a small pond near the temple, where lilies float on the surface and koi fish swim lazily below. The Master picks up a smooth stone from the path and hands it to the merchant. "Drop this into the pond," he instructs. The merchant does so, and they both watch as the stone breaks the surface, creating concentric ripples that spread outward across the entire pond. "The exact proportion," says the Master, pointing to the ripples, "is this: to the extent that your actions honor the interconnectedness of all life, you will find the peace you seek. When you truly understand that your well-being and the well-being of others cannot be separated, just as these ripples cannot be contained to one part of the pond, authentic generosity naturally emerges. It is no longer a calculation of how much to give away, but a recognition that genuine wealth lies in creating ripples of benefit that extend beyond yourself." The merchant stands quietly by the pond, watching as the ripples gradually subside and the water returns to stillness, reflecting the sky above. Something shifts in his expression, a softening around the eyes, a release of the subtle tension he carried. Without speaking, he and the Master return to the temple. Before departing, the merchant arranges to leave a generous donation for the temple. But more significantly, he speaks with the Master about establishing a new approach to his business, one that will ensure fair compensation for workers, reasonable prices for customers, and systematic support for those in need throughout the regions where he conducts trade. These are not haphazard charitable gestures, but a fundamental restructuring based on the principle of interconnection that the Master revealed through the ripples in the pond. Years later, the merchant's business enterprises become known not just for their commercial success, but for their positive impact on entire communities. The exact proportion that the Master revealed has transformed not only the merchant's approach to wealth, but his experience of life itself. The emptiness that drove him to seek the Master's guidance has been replaced by a sense of purpose and connection that no amount of mere acquisition could have provided. This story illuminates profound truths about our relationship with resources, generosity, and the nature of true fulfillment. At its heart is the recognition that we exist in a web of interconnection, where artificial boundaries between self and other obscure a deeper reality. The Master's demonstration with the stone and pond offers a vivid metaphor for this truth. Just as ripples cannot be contained to one section of water, but naturally extend across the entire surface, our actions inevitably affect the larger whole of which we are part. The merchant's initial approach to charity, calculating appropriate amounts based on status, recognition, or social expectations, reflects how many of us think about giving. We ask, how much should I give? What's the right percentage? What's required or expected? These questions assume a fundamental separation between giver and recipient, between my resources and others' needs. They frame generosity as a transaction rather than a recognition of interconnection. The exact proportion revealed by the Master transcends these calculations. It's not a formula or percentage, but a principle. Authentic generosity flows naturally from the recognition that our well-being is inseparable from the well-being of others. When we truly understand this, giving becomes less about charity in the conventional sense, and more about honoring the reality of our interdependence. We recognize that creating conditions where others can thrive ultimately enriches our own experience as well. This principle applies not just to financial resources, but to all forms of giving, our time, attention, skills, and presence. When we offer these gifts from a recognition of our interconnection rather than from obligation or expectation of return, they carry a different quality. There's a naturalness and joy in such giving that is absent when we're merely fulfilling social obligations or attempting to accumulate spiritual merit. The merchant's transformation illustrates another key insight, that the emptiness he experienced amid material abundance couldn't be filled by acquiring more, but only by recognizing his place within a larger whole. This echoes a central teaching across wisdom traditions, that lasting fulfillment arises not from satisfying the self's endless desires, but from transcending exclusive identification with the separate self. As we extend our concern and care beyond our immediate interests, we paradoxically experience a deeper sense of meaning and sufficiency. In the language of Buddhism, this shift reflects the movement from a consciousness dominated by greed, aversion, and delusion, the three poisons that create suffering, to one characterized by generosity, compassion, and wisdom. The Master didn't ask the merchant to abandon his business or give away all his wealth. Rather, he invited him to transform his relationship with resources by recognizing the illusory nature of separation and allowing that recognition to inform his decisions. As you drift towards sleep, consider the ripples that your own life creates in the pond of interconnection. Where might you be calculating giving based on external measures, rather than recognizing fundamental interconnectedness? How might your approach to resources, whether material wealth, time, attention, or care, shift if viewed through the lens of interdependence rather than separation? Perhaps the exact proportion that brings lasting fulfillment is not a numerical formula, but a way of being that honors the reality that, like ripples in a pond, our well-being and the well-being of others cannot ultimately be separated. Feel yourself drifting deeper into relaxation, your body becoming comfortably heavy as your mind grows lighter. The boundaries between waking and dreaming begin to blur as you journey to feudal Japan, to a time when Zen Buddhism was flourishing throughout the country. The concerns of your day gradually dissolve as you find yourself approaching a mountain temple known for its rigorous training and the profound wisdom of its master. The temple is nestled among ancient cedars that sway gently in the mountain breeze. Stone lanterns line the path leading to its entrance, and the air carries the delicate scent of incense. Unlike the grand temples of Kyoto, this one is relatively modest, its beauty lying in its harmony with the natural surroundings rather than in elaborate ornamentation. This is a place dedicated to serious practice rather than ceremonial display. As you approach the main gate, you notice an unusual visitor arriving, a scholar dressed in the fine robes of the educated elite, accompanied by several attendants carrying scrolls and writing materials. This is clearly no ordinary pilgrim seeking simple spiritual guidance. The scholar's bearing suggests someone accustomed to academic debate and intellectual mastery, rather than the humble posture typical of those who come to study Zen. You learn from overhearing the temple monks that this visitor is a renowned philosopher and scholar who has written extensively on Buddhist doctrine. His commentaries on sutras are studied throughout the country, and his reputation for intellectual brilliance is matched only by his confidence in debate. He has come to challenge the temple's master, believing that through rigorous philosophical questioning, he can either expose limitations in the Zen approach or gain new insights to incorporate into his scholarly work. The scholar is escorted to the master's modest quarters. You follow discreetly, curious about how this encounter between intellectual prowess and Zen directness will unfold. The master, an elderly monk with a weathered face and clear eyes, receives the scholar without ceremony, inviting him to sit on a simple cushion across from his own. "I have studied Buddhist texts extensively," the scholar begins, "and have engaged in debate with masters of various schools. I find Zen's claim to transmission beyond words and letters philosophically problematic. If truth cannot be expressed in language, how can it be communicated at all? And if it can be communicated without words, why have Zen masters themselves written so many commentaries?" The master listens attentively, neither impressed nor dismissive. When the scholar finishes his opening challenge, the master asks simply, "Would you like some tea?" Somewhat taken aback by this seemingly irrelevant response, the scholar nevertheless agrees. As the master prepares the tea with mindful movements, the scholar launches into a detailed critique of Zen methodology, citing apparent contradictions between different masters' approaches and questioning the efficacy of meditation compared to intellectual analysis. The master places a cup of tea before the scholar without comment and returns to his seat. Undeterred, the scholar continues his philosophical questioning, touching on the nature of Buddha nature, the problem of dualistic thinking, and the paradoxes inherent in seeking enlightenment through practice. His arguments are well constructed and draw upon an impressive range of textual sources. Throughout this intellectual barrage, the master remains silent, neither agreeing nor disagreeing, neither defending Zen nor criticizing the scholar's approach. His face reveals neither impatience nor boredom, just present attention. As evening approaches and the light begins to fade, the the scholar's questions continue unabated. A young monk brings in a lamp and, seeing that the room has grown chilly with the mountain evening, lights a fire in the small hearth. The master occasionally tends the fire with a poker, but offers no response to the scholar's increasingly frustrated attempts to elicit a definitive answer to his philosophical challenges. Hours pass. The scholar, determined to receive some form of engagement, continues his questioning past midnight. His attendants have long since retired to the quarters provided for them, but the scholar remains, his intellectual persistence matching the master's silent endurance. The fire burns low, casting gentle shadows across the simple room. Near dawn, the scholar, exhausted but still determined, poses what he considers his most penetrating question. What is the essential nature of mind itself, beyond all conceptual formulations? At this, the master suddenly stands, takes the fire poker, and holds it up before the scholar's face. "Do you see this poker?" he asks, breaking his night-long silence. "Of course I see it," replies the scholar, perplexed by this simple question after hours of sophisticated philosophical inquiry. In a swift motion, the master lightly taps the scholar on the shoulder with the poker and says, "Then you have your answer." The poker is iron, forged in fire, cooled in water, and now warm from the flame. It is exactly what it is, nothing added, nothing taken away. Your mind, in this moment of direct perception, is no different. The scholar stares at the poker, then at the master. Something shifts in his expression, a subtle release of tension, a softening around the eyes. The night-long stream of conceptual thinking seems to pause, and in that space of mental quietude, a different kind of understanding begins to dawn. For perhaps the first time, he experiences the directness the master has been demonstrating through his silence. "I have been circling around what is directly before me," the scholar says quietly. Like someone dying of thirst while discussing the chemical properties of water instead of drinking from the stream at his feet. The master nods, a gentle smile crossing his face. "Your intellectual understanding is impressive," he acknowledges. But Zen points to what is prior to understanding, the direct experience that no concept can contain. The fire poker is not a metaphor or a philosophical position. It is just this poker, and your direct perception of it is just this mind. As the first light of dawn filters through the paper windows, the scholar bows deeply to the master. His demeanor has changed, less certain perhaps, but somehow more present. He remains at the temple for several weeks, setting aside his scrolls and philosophical treatises to engage in meditation and simple work alongside the other monks. When he eventually returns to his academic life, his writings reflect a new dimension, still intellectually rigorous, but now informed by an appreciation for the direct experience that lies beyond conceptual understanding. This story illuminates a fundamental aspect of Zen practice, the limitation of intellectual understanding and the power of direct experience. The scholar approaches Zen as he would any other philosophical system, assuming that its truths can be grasped through analysis, comparison, and logical deduction. His questions, while sophisticated, all operate within the realm of conceptual thinking, the realm of maps rather than territory. The Master's prolonged silence is not merely a teaching technique or a refusal to engage. It is itself a demonstration of what Zen points toward, the direct presence that precedes and transcends conceptual elaboration. By neither defending Zen philosophically nor dismissing the scholar's questions, the Master creates a space where something beyond intellectual exchange can potentially emerge. The fire poker becomes the perfect instrument for this teaching, an ordinary object with no special spiritual significance, yet in that moment of direct perception, revealing the nature of mind itself. When the Master asks, "Do you see this poker?" he is pointing to the immediacy of perception that occurs before thought categorizes, analyzes, or evaluates. This direct seeing is what Zen means by original mind or Buddha nature, not some mystical state or philosophical concept, but the simple, ordinary awareness that is always present, yet often overlooked as we become entangled in our thoughts about reality rather than reality itself. Notice the critical role of persistence in this story. Had the scholar given up after a few hours of the Master's silence, the breakthrough might never have occurred. It was precisely his exhaustion, the wearing down of his habitual intellectual approach, that created the conditions for a different kind of understanding to emerge. Sometimes, our most cherished mental habits must be exhausted before we can experience the simplicity that lies beyond them. This parallels the experience of many who practice meditation. Often, we begin with concepts about what meditation should accomplish or what enlightenment might feel like. We analyze our experiences, evaluate our progress, and compare our practice to our expectations. Only when this conceptual approach is thoroughly exhausted, often after many hours on the cushion, does the mind naturally settle into direct presence, neither grasping at experiences nor rejecting them, simply being with what is. The scholar's realization that he has been circling around what is directly before me reflects a universal human tendency. We often become so engrossed in our thoughts about reality that we miss the direct experience of it. We analyze relationships instead of being fully present with others, theorize about happiness rather than noticing moments of contentment when they arise, accumulate spiritual concepts instead of living from the awareness that all such concepts attempt to describe. The Master's acknowledgement of the scholar's intellectual abilities is significant. Zen doesn't reject intellectual understanding, it simply recognizes its limitations. Concepts and analyses have their place. They help us organize experience, communicate with others, and solve practical problems. But they are tools rather than the truth itself, maps rather than the territory they represent. When we mistake the map for the territory, when we confuse our concepts about reality with reality itself, we remain trapped in what Zen calls the ghost cave of conceptual thinking. As you drift toward sleep, consider where in your own life you might be circling around what is directly before you. Perhaps you've read many books about mindfulness without experiencing the simple presence of this moment. Maybe you've analyzed a relationship extensively without being fully present with the actual person. Or perhaps you've accumulated spiritual concepts while overlooking the awareness in which all concepts appear. The fire poker is always right here, in the sound of your breath, the feeling of your body against the bed, the simple awareness that witnesses all experience. No special state is required to access this directness. It's available in every ordinary moment, requiring only that we pause our endless thinking about experience long enough to experience directly. As the Zen saying goes, don't mistake the finger pointing at the moon for the moon itself. All spiritual teachings, including this story, are merely fingers pointing toward the direct experience that is always available, always present, waiting to be recognized beneath the stream of our thoughts about it. Feel your body becoming heavier with each breath, sinking deeper into comfort. The sounds around you begin to fade as you journey to another time and place. Imagine yourself walking along a forest path in Japan, the ground soft beneath your feet, the air fresh with the scent of pine and moss. Bird songs echo through the trees as sunlight filters through the canopy in golden shafts. You follow the winding path until it opens onto a small clearing where a modest temple stands. This is not one of Japan's grand ornate temples, but a simple wooden structure that seems to have grown naturally from the forest floor. A stream runs nearby, its gentle murmur creating a perfect backdrop for meditation. This is the temple of Gasan, a respected Zen teacher known for his clear wisdom and open mind. As you approach, you notice unusual activity today. A visitor unlike the temple's typical students has arrived, a young man in Western clothing carrying a book bound in leather. From snippets of conversation among the monks, you learn he is a university student who has been studying Christianity with Western missionaries. Curious about how different spiritual traditions might compare, he has come to show Gasan some passages from the Christian Bible and hear the Zen master's perspective. You follow as the young man is led to Gasan's simple quarters. The room contains only a low table, a few cushions, and a scroll with calligraphy hanging in the alcove. Gasan himself sits in meditation, his eyes open but focused on nothing in particular. Though probably in his 60s, his posture is straight and vital, his presence conveying both alertness and profound ease. The student bows respectfully and introduces himself. Gasan gestures for him to sit on a cushion nearby. You can feel the nervousness in the young man as he carefully places his Bible on the low table between them. He's clearly unsure how this Zen master might react to Christian scripture. "Master Gasan," he begins, his voice betraying a slight tremor, "I have been reading the Christian Bible with missionaries from America. I find some of its teachings beautiful, but I wonder how they compare with Zen wisdom. Would you be willing to hear some passages and share your thoughts?" Gasan's face remains serene, neither eager nor reluctant. He nods simply, and you can see some of the tension leave the student's shoulders. The young man carefully opens his Bible, the pages making a soft crackling sound in the quiet room. He turns to a marked section and begins to read, And why take ye thought for raiment? Consider the lilies of the field, how they grow. They toil not, neither do they spin. And yet I say unto you, that even Solomon in all his glory was not arrayed like one of these. The student pauses, watching Ghassan's face for a reaction. The master's eyes have softened, and a subtle smile plays at the corners of his mouth. Whoever uttered those words, Ghassan says quietly, I consider an enlightened man. Surprise and delight flash across the student's face. He hadn't expected such immediate appreciation from a Buddhist master for Christian scripture. Encouraged, he turns to another passage and continues reading. Ask, and it shall be given you. Seek, and ye shall find. Knock, and it shall be opened unto you. For everyone that asketh receiveth, and he that seeketh findeth, and to him that knocketh it shall be opened. The late afternoon sun casts long shadows across the room as Ghassan listens intently. When the student finishes, the master nods thoughtfully. You can feel the student holding his breath, waiting for the response. That is excellent, Ghassan says, his voice warm with genuine appreciation. Whoever said that is not far from Buddhahood. The look of joy on the student's face is unmistakable. You can almost see his conception of spiritual boundaries dissolving before your eyes. What he had perhaps imagined as competing religious systems now appears in a new light, as different expressions of the same fundamental truths. As twilight approaches, student and master continue their conversation, the atmosphere growing increasingly warm and open. You notice how Ghassan neither adopts Christian terminology nor attempts to convert the passages into Buddhist concepts. He simply recognizes truth when he encounters it, regardless of its source or packaging. Later, as the student prepares to leave, he asks one final question. Master Ghassan, do you find that the essential teachings of Christianity and Buddhism are the same? Ghassan looks at him with clear eyes that seem to see far beyond the surface of things. Truth is truth, he replies simply. When we recognize the lilies of the field in their suchness, when we understand the nature of seeking and finding, these insights transcend any single tradition. The packaging may differ, but when genuine wisdom speaks, those with open hearts recognize it, whether it comes from the Buddha, Jesus, or the wind in the pine trees. As the student bows and departs, you notice how differently he carries himself, more lightness in his step, more openness in his face. He came seeking comparison and perhaps validation of one tradition over another. He leaves with something far more valuable, a glimpse of the universal truth that all genuine spiritual paths point toward. This simple yet profound encounter reveals much about the nature of true spiritual understanding. Ghassan demonstrated what we might call religious literacy, the ability to recognize wisdom regardless of its source or the tradition from which it emerges. Rather than getting caught in doctrinal differences or theological debates, he went straight to the heart of the teachings themselves. The passages the student read contain insights that align perfectly with Zen understanding. Consider the lilies of the field, points to the natural perfection that exists prior to human striving, what Zen might call our original nature that needs no adornment or improvement. Just as the lilies grow naturally, without effort or anxiety about their appearance, our true nature manifests most perfectly when we stop trying to enhance or perfect ourselves through endless striving. Similarly, "Seek and ye shall find" reflects the Zen understanding that our essential nature, what some traditions call Buddha nature, is always present but must be recognized through sincere inquiry. The seeking itself becomes a form of finding when approached with genuine openness. This parallels the Zen saying, "What you seek is where you stand," pointing to the immediate availability of what we often believe is distant or separate from us. Notice that Gasan didn't need to convert these teachings into Buddhist terminology or claim them for his own tradition. His response reflects a recognition that truth is not the exclusive property of any single religion or philosophy. Like water that takes the shape of whatever container holds it while remaining essentially the same, spiritual truth may be expressed through different cultural forms and language, while pointing to the same fundamental reality. This open, non-dogmatic approach stands in stark contrast to religious exclusivism, the belief that one's own tradition has a monopoly on truth, while others are mistaken or incomplete. Gasan demonstrates a more inclusive understanding that sees different spiritual traditions not as competitors, but as diverse expressions of human wisdom responding to the same fundamental questions: what is our true nature? How should we live? What constitutes a life of meaning and freedom from suffering? As you rest tonight, consider where in your own thinking you might be creating unnecessary boundaries between wisdom, traditions, or sources of insight. Perhaps you've dismissed certain teachings because they come from a tradition different from your own. Maybe you've been caught in comparing spiritual paths rather than recognizing the universal truths they all point toward in their own ways. Gasan's approach invites us to become wisdom collectors rather than belief defenders, to recognize truth wherever we encounter it, whether in ancient texts, modern science, artistic expression, or our own direct experience. This doesn't mean that all spiritual teachings are identical or equally valuable in all contexts, but it suggests that genuine wisdom has a universal quality that resonates beyond the boundaries of any single tradition. As your awareness drifts towards sleep, imagine yourself sitting in Gasan's simple room, sunlight filtering through paper windows, the sound of the stream mixing with birdsong outside. Feel the openness that comes when we stop deciding in advance where truth can and cannot be found. Like Gasan, we might discover that wisdom speaks in many languages, and that an open heart recognizes its voice, regardless of the words it uses. This recognition doesn't diminish our own tradition, but enriches it, connecting us to the larger human quest for understanding that transcends all boundaries of time, culture, and belief. Your body feels deliciously heavy now, sinking deeper into relaxation with each breath. Behind your closed eyelids, the darkness transforms into a misty mountain landscape in ancient China. You can feel the cool, damp air against your skin and hear the distant call of birds echoing through forested valleys. Your feet carry you along a narrow path winding up a steep mountainside. After climbing for what seems like hours, you reach a small plateau where a humble hermitage stands. Built of rough-hewn timber with a thatched roof, it blends so naturally with its surroundings that you might have missed it if not for the thin wisp of smoke rising from its central fire pit. This is the dwelling of Master Gute, a Zen teacher who left the comforts of temple life years ago to practice in solitude. Despite his preference for isolation, Gute's reputation for wisdom has spread, and occasionally seekers brave the difficult journey to receive his teaching. Today, you're not the only visitor. Just ahead of you on the path walks a young monk, his simple robe dusty from travel, determination evident in his steady pace. As you both approach the hermitage, the door slides open. Master Gute appears, a wiry man of middle years, with weathered skin and clear, penetrating eyes. His appearance is unremarkable. Nothing about his physical presence suggests spiritual accomplishment or special status. Yet something in his quality of attention, in the way he fully occupies this moment, creates an atmosphere of extraordinary presence. The young monk bows deeply. "Master Gute," he says, his voice reflecting both respect and eagerness, "I have traveled far to ask you about the essential nature of Zen. What is the fundamental teaching? What is the truth that the Buddha realized under the Bodhi tree?" You watch carefully, expecting Gute to respond with a profound statement, perhaps a quote from the sutras or a paradoxical Zen saying. Instead, something unexpected happens. Gute slowly raises his right hand, extends his index finger, and points upward, saying nothing at all. His face remains impassive, yet somehow radiates complete conviction. The young monk appears confused. He waits for further explanation, but none comes. Gute simply stands there, finger raised, in eloquent silence. After several moments, the monk bows again and backs away, clearly unsure what to make of this strange response. You follow the young monk as he makes his way to a small meditation hut nearby, provided for visitors who wish to stay and practice. For several days, he sits in meditation, occasionally walking in the surrounding forest. You can almost see the wheels turning in his mind as he attempts to decipher the meaning of Gute's finger. Is it pointing to the sky? To the oneness of all things? Is it a symbol to be understood, or is the gesture itself the teaching? The monk approaches Gute several more times, asking follow-up questions, seeking clarification. Each time, regardless of what is asked, Gute responds only by raising his index finger. Nothing more. You notice how the raised finger itself begins to take on a mysterious power, not as a conceptual explanation, but as a direct expression of something beyond words. Weeks pass. The monk remains at the hermitage, helping with daily chores, carrying water from the stream, chopping firewood, preparing simple meals. Throughout these activities, he continues to contemplate the meaning of the master's finger. You observe how, despite his confusion, something is shifting in his demeanor, a subtle loosening of his intellectual grasping, a growing receptivity to direct experience rather than explanation. One morning, the monk encounters a wild-eyed boy of about 10 years old, who occasionally brings supplies to the hermitage from the nearest village. The boy has heard about the famous one-finger Zen of Master Gutei and with childish mischief raises his own finger when he sees the monk approaching. "That's Master Gutei's teaching," the boy says with a giggle, his finger pointing skyward in imitation of the master. You feel a surge of protective concern as you watch this scene unfold. The monk has been sincerely struggling with this profound teaching, and now this child seems to be making light of it. How will he respond to such apparent disrespect? To your surprise, the monk does something unexpected. He reaches out suddenly, grabs the boy's extended finger, and pulls it sharply. The boy cries out in pain, tears immediately springing to his eyes. As the boy stands there nursing his hurt finger, shock evident on his face, the monk leans in close and raises his own finger exactly as Gutei does. The boy stares at the monk's finger, then at his face, and something extraordinary happens. His expression transforms from pain to sudden understanding. Without a word being exchanged, something has been transmitted between them. The boy bows awkwardly, then scampers away down the mountain path, forever changed by the encounter. That evening, as twilight casts long shadows across the plateau, you see the monk approach Gutei's hermitage one final time. His demeanor is different now, more settled, more present. When Gutei slides open the door, the monk bows and then, with perfect timing, raises his own index finger in silent response. Gutei studies him carefully, looking deep into his eyes as if searching for something beyond the mere imitation of the gesture. Whatever he sees there must satisfy him, for his weathered face breaks into a rare smile. Master and student stand facing each other, each with one finger raised, a perfect mirror image. No words are exchanged, yet volumes are communicated in that silent moment. The next day, the monk prepares to depart. As he shoulders his small travel pack, Gutei appears to see him off. With a twinkle in his eye, the master raises his finger one last time. The monk bows deeply, turns, and begins his descent down the mountain path. You notice he doesn't look back, yet somehow carries Gutei's presence with him, not as a memory or concept, but as a living reality that has become part of his own being. Years later, the monk himself becomes a respected teacher. When students come asking about the essential nature of Zen, he simply raises his index finger, carrying forward Gutei's direct transmission. The teaching continues, not as a philosophy to be understood or a belief to be accepted, but as a living gesture pointing directly to what cannot be captured in words. This story illuminates the heart of Zen's approach to spiritual transmission, the direct pointing to truth beyond conceptual understanding. Gutei's raised finger is not a symbol to be decoded or a metaphor to be interpreted. It is itself the direct expression of what Zen calls suchness, the immediate, unfiltered reality prior to our mental categories and explanations. Notice how the young monk initially approached Gute with questions that assumed truth could be packaged in concepts. What is the fundamental teaching? What is the truth that the Buddha realized? These questions reflect our common assumption that spiritual understanding is primarily about acquiring the right ideas or beliefs. Gute's finger cuts through this assumption, offering not an explanation, but a direct pointing to reality itself. The monk's journey from confusion to understanding parallels the path many of us walk in spiritual practice. At first, we try to grasp teachings intellectually to fit them into our existing frameworks of understanding. We want explanations, systems, practices that promise specific results. Like the monk puzzling over the meaning of Gute's finger, we search for the correct interpretation that will satisfy our intellect. True understanding often arrives unexpectedly, not through accumulating more concepts, but through direct experience that bypasses conceptual thinking altogether. For the monk, this breakthrough came through his interaction with the boy, an encounter that moved him from intellectual contemplation to spontaneous, embodied action. In that moment, the finger ceased to be something to understand and became something to live. The physical sensation of your own finger is available right now as you rest. Can you feel the pulse of blood moving through it? The subtle warmth? The way it connects to your hand, your arm, your entire body? This direct, non-conceptual awareness is what Gute was pointing to, not with explanations, but with the finger itself. In Zen, this direct transmission from teacher to student, outside the sutras, beyond words and letters, is considered the essence of the tradition. The story of Gute's finger exemplifies what Zen calls mind-to-mind transmission, not the passing of concepts from one intellect to another, but the direct recognition of our shared Buddha, nature, the awareness that precedes all thinking. This approach can seem frustratingly opaque to modern seekers accustomed to detailed explanations and step-by-step instructions. Yet it addresses a profound truth about spiritual awakening, that our deepest nature cannot be reached through concepts alone, just as no description of water, however detailed, can quench your thirst. Only direct experience satisfies. As you drift towards sleep, imagine yourself on that misty mountain plateau with Gute. Feel the cool air on your skin, hear the distant call of birds. When he raises his finger, look not at what it might symbolize or represent, but at the direct reality of this moment, the sensations in your body, the rhythm of your breath, the spacious awareness in which all experience arises. Like the monk who eventually understood, you too might discover that the deepest truths are not grasped through thinking, but realized through direct presence with what is, just as it is. Gute's finger continues to point the way, even now, even here. Feel your body growing heavier with each breath, your mind drifting into a state of peaceful receptivity. The familiar surroundings of your room gently fade as you journey to a different time and place. The soft darkness behind your eyelids transforms into a bustling marketplace in medieval Japan. The air fills with the mingled scents of fresh vegetables, fish, incense, and wood smoke. You find yourself standing at the edge of the market square, where vendors call out their wares and shoppers haggle over prices. Children dart between stalls, and merchants carefully count coins. It's a scene of ordinary commerce, until your attention is drawn to an extraordinary figure making his way through the crowd. Unlike the serious-faced merchants and purposeful shoppers, this man radiates an unmistakable joy. He's a portly monk with a shaved head, dressed in simple robes that have seen better days. A large cloth sack is slung over his shoulder, and his face bears the broadest, most genuine smile you've ever seen. Children flock to him, and even the harried adults seem to brighten as he passes. "Who is that?" you ask a nearby vegetable seller who's watching the monk with evident affection. "That's Hote," she replies, smiling herself now. Some call him the Happy Chinaman, though no one knows if he really came from China. He's been wandering these parts for as long as anyone can remember. You follow Hote as he makes his way through the marketplace. Unlike other monks who solemnly request alms, Hote seems to be giving rather than receiving. From his large sack, he produces small treats for the children, sweet rice cakes, tiny carved wooden animals, colorful pebbles that catch the light. Each gift is presented with a delighted laugh, as if the giving brings him more joy than the receiving could possibly bring the children. The adults, too, receive his gifts, though theirs are often less tangible. For a frazzled mother with a crying infant, he produces a moment of unexpected peace by making silly faces that transform the baby's wails into giggles. For a merchant whose vegetables are beginning to wilt in the afternoon sun, he creates a makeshift shade from his own wide-brimmed hat. For an elderly man struggling with a heavy load, he offers not just help, but companionship, telling a story that transforms the labor into a shared pleasure. You notice something curious about Hote's famous sack. Though he continually takes things out of it, toys, treats, practical tools, it never seems to empty. And though people frequently give him small offerings of food or simple items, which he accepts with genuine gratitude, the sack never appears to get fuller. It's as if the contents maintain a perfect balance, neither depleting nor accumulating. As evening approaches and the market begins to close, Hote finds a spot beneath a large tree at the edge of the square. He settles his substantial form on the ground with surprising grace, places his sack beside him, and closes his eyes, still smiling. Several children linger nearby, clearly reluctant to leave his presence. One bold little girl approaches and tugs at his sleeve. "Hote-san," she asks, "why are you always so happy?" Hote opens his eyes and regards her with such warmth that you can almost feel it from where you stand. "Because there is nothing to be unhappy about," he replies, his voice rich and resonant. The girl frowns, clearly unconvinced. But sometimes, sad things happen, she persists. Sometimes people are mean, or things break, or it rains when you want to play outside. Hote nods thoughtfully. Yes, all these things happen, he agrees. But being unhappy about them is like carrying 2 sacks instead of 1. He pats the cloth bag beside him. This sack I carry holds everything I need for today, no more, no less. If I carried another sack filled with worries about yesterday and fears about tomorrow, I would be too burdened to play with you or enjoy this beautiful evening. The girl considers this, her small face serious. But how do you put down that second sack? She asks. Hote's laugh rings out, full of genuine delight at her wisdom. That's the best question, he exclaims. You put it down by noticing when you're carrying it. Right now, for instance, are you carrying that heavy second sack, or are you simply here with me under this tree? The girl's face clears, and she giggles. I'm here with you. Exactly, says Hote, his smile somehow growing even wider. And that's all there ever is, just this moment, this place, this encounter. When we're fully here, the second sack disappears all by itself. As darkness falls, parents call their children home. The girl gives Hote a quick, impulsive hug before skipping away. You watch as Hote settles himself for the night, using his sack as a pillow, seemingly as content to sleep under the stars as anyone might be in the finest palace. The next morning, you follow Hote as he continues his wandering. He has no particular destination, no schedule to keep, no goals to achieve. Yet his days are full of purpose, bringing joy to everyone he meets, easing suffering where he finds it, sharing the simple happiness that radiates from his being. One afternoon, you see a group of serious-looking Zen monks encounter Hote on the road. Their austere appearance and disciplined manner form a striking contrast to Hote's disheveled, joyful presence. One of the monks, seemingly bothered by Hote's unorthodox appearance and behavior, approaches him with a challenging question. You call yourself a monk, the stern monk says, yet you follow none of the traditional practices. You don't live in a monastery, you don't perform proper rituals, you laugh and play instead of maintaining dignified silence. What is the meaning of Zen to you? Hote says nothing. Instead, he simply puts down his sack. He stands there, empty-handed, his smile as natural as the sun in the sky, his presence radiating a wordless contentment that needs no explanation or defense. The questioning monk's expression shifts, first confusion, then a dawning recognition. Something in Hote's simple gesture and unshakable presence has communicated more than 1,000 sutras could convey. The monk bows deeply, a new humility evident in his posture. When he straightens, his own face has softened, a small smile beginning to form. Thank you for the teaching, he says quietly. Hote picks up his sack again, gives the monk a friendly pat on the shoulder, and continues on his way, spreading joy with each step, as naturally as a flower spreads its fragrance. In later years, Hote becomes so beloved that his image is often portrayed in paintings, sculptures, and household shrines. He is remembered not as a formal teacher expounding complex philosophy, but as a living embodiment of one of Zen's most profound truths, that enlightenment is not a distant goal achieved through arduous practice, but the natural state of a mind free from unnecessary burdens, fully present to the wonder of ordinary life. This delightful story of the happy Chinaman offers a refreshing perspective on spiritual practice, one that emphasizes joy, simplicity, and direct participation in life rather than solemn discipline or intellectual understanding. Hote represents a tradition sometimes called crazy wisdom, teachers whose unconventional behavior and apparent disregard for formal rules actually embody the deepest spiritual truths. Notice how Hote's teaching comes not through sermons or explanations, but through his very being. His joy isn't something he achieves through effort or maintains through positive thinking techniques. It flows naturally from his complete presence in each moment, his freedom from the second sack of regrets about the past and worries about the future. Hote's famous sack represents a profound teaching about appropriate relationship to possessions and circumstances. He carries what he needs for the day, no more, no less. Unlike those of us who accumulate far beyond our needs, or, conversely, deny ourselves basic comforts in the name of spiritual practice, Hote demonstrates the middle way that Buddhism has always advocated, neither indulgence nor deprivation, but just what's needed for the journey. The sack's mysterious property, never emptying despite Hote's constant giving, never filling despite what he receives, points to a spiritual principle that many traditions recognize, that generosity creates abundance rather than scarcity. When we give from a place of joy rather than obligation, when we receive with genuine gratitude rather than entitlement, we participate in a natural flow that defies our usual economic logic of gain and loss. Hote's response to the little girl reveals his teaching method, simple, direct, and tailored to the listener's capacity for understanding. Rather than offering abstract philosophy, he uses the concrete metaphor of the second sack, making a profound spiritual truth accessible even to a child. And his delight in her question shows how he honors the wisdom that can come from any source, including the very young. The encounter with the formal monks highlights the contrast between institutional religion, with its emphasis on proper form and tradition, and direct spiritual experience that might manifest in unexpected ways. The questioning monk initially mistakes Hote's unconventional appearance and behavior for spiritual immaturity, only to discover that this seemingly simple, joyful figure has realized the very essence of what all the monastery's disciplines aim to cultivate. As you drift towards sleep, consider your own second sack, the unnecessary burdens of regret, worry, self-consciousness, or excessive planning that you might be carrying. Can you feel the weight of these mental constructions? Can you sense how they pull you away from the simple joy of being fully present in this moment? Hotei's teaching offers a direct invitation: put down the second sack. Not through elaborate techniques or strenuous effort, but simply by noticing when you're carrying it and choosing to be fully here instead. In this moment of preparing for sleep, can you feel the natural contentment that arises when the mind stops its restless wandering and settles into simple presence? This is Hotei's gift, the recognition that joy is not something to be pursued or achieved, but our natural state when we remove the obstacles to experiencing it. Like the happy Chinaman himself, you might discover that the happiness you seek is not in some distant future or special circumstance, but right here, available whenever you fully arrive in the present moment. Feel your body melting into deep relaxation, each breath taking you further into tranquility. As the concerns of your day dissolve, allow your mind to journey to ancient Japan, to a time when Zen teachings were flourishing throughout the land. The familiar surroundings of your room transform into a serene mountain landscape, where a small Zen temple nestles among towering pines. Mist drifts through the valleys below as morning sunlight gilds the temple's curved roof. This is the temple where Master Shinkan teaches. Unlike many famous Zen masters whose challenging koans and strict training methods are widely known, Shinkan's approach is gentler, more direct. He's known for his ability to meet each student where they are, offering precisely the teaching they need in that moment. His reputation for clarity and compassion has spread throughout the region, drawing seekers from many walks of life. As you approach the temple gates, you notice two very different visitors arriving ahead of you. The first is a young monk, perhaps 20 years old, his shaved head and crisp robes marking him as someone who has recently entered formal Zen training at another monastery. His posture is perfect, his movements controlled and mindful. He holds a small bundle containing, you imagine, sutras and notes from his studies. The second visitor is an elderly man, his weathered face and calloused hands suggesting a lifetime of physical labor. Though clearly well into his 50s, he moves with the easy strength of someone accustomed to daily work. His clothes are simple but clean, the garb of a farmer or tradesman rather than a religious seeker. Unlike the young monk, he carries nothing but a small cloth bundle that might contain a midday meal. Both visitors have come to seek Master Shinkan's guidance, though for different reasons. You follow them into the temple courtyard, curious about how the master will respond to their questions. The young monk is received first, shown to the master's modest quarters by an attending student. Through open screens, you can see Shinkan seated on a simple cushion. Though probably in his 60s, he sits straight as a pine tree, his face reflecting both the strength forged through decades of practice and the gentleness that comes from deep understanding. The young monk bows formally before taking his place opposite the master. Venerable teacher, the young monk begins, his voice carrying the slight nervousness of one addressing a renowned master. I have studied the Tendai school of meditation for 6 years before beginning Zen practice. I have memorized many sutras and mastered several forms of meditation. But there is one teaching from the Tendai school that continues to perplex me. Shinkan nods encouragingly, his eyes attentive. The Tendai texts claim that even grass and trees will become enlightened. The monk continues. This seems very strange to me. How can non-sentient beings like plants achieve Buddha nature? They have no minds with which to practice meditation, no consciousness to realize enlightenment. Can you explain this teaching? You watch as a subtle smile crosses Shinkan's face, not mocking but gently amused, as if the young monk has inadvertently revealed something significant through his question. The master is silent for a moment, studying the earnest face before him. Of what use is it to discuss how grass and trees become enlightened? Shinkan asks, his voice gentle but direct. The question is how you yourself can become so. The young monk appears momentarily taken aback by this response, which neither confirms nor denies the Tendai teaching, but shifts the focus entirely. He opens his mouth as if to ask a follow-up question, then closes it again, seeming to sense that pressing for a more elaborate answer would miss the point of Shinkan's response. After a moment, he bows deeply and withdraws, his expression thoughtful rather than disappointed. Now the elderly visitor is shown in. His bow to the master is respectful, but less formal than the monk's, suggesting a different relationship to religious protocol. He settles himself on the cushion with the natural ease of someone comfortable in his body. Master Shinkan, he begins, his voice carrying the roughness of age but also a quality of directness. I am a simple man who has worked the land all my life. I never had the opportunity for formal study or temple practice. But my neighbor, who visits your temple sometimes, has spoken of your teachings about Buddha nature. I wonder, can someone like me, with no education or proper training, still understand the deeper truths of Buddhism? Shinkan's face warms as he regards the elderly man. Did you consider the grass and trees on your journey up the mountain to this temple? He asks. The older man looks puzzled but nods. Yes, of course. The pines along the path are particularly beautiful this season. And did they bow to you as you passed? Did they demand to see your credentials or test your knowledge of the sutras before sharing their beauty with you? A slow smile spreads across the elderly man's face as he grasps the meaning behind Shinkan's questions. No, he replies. They simply were as they are. Just so, says Shinkan, nodding. Buddha, nature is like this, freely given to all beings without distinction, requiring no special qualification or achievement. The trees and grass never worry about becoming enlightened. They simply express their nature fully. Perhaps they have something to teach us about the direct path. The elderly man's eyes shine with understanding. What might have taken years of philosophical study to grasp intellectually, he has understood immediately through Shinkan's simple metaphor connected to his own experience. As the older man leaves, you notice the young monk waiting in the courtyard, still contemplating Shinkan's response to his question. Seeing the elderly visitor's peaceful expression, the monk approaches him. Pardon me, the young monk says, "but I couldn't help noticing your meeting with Master Shinkan. May I ask what teaching he shared with you?" The elderly man smiles. "He helped me understand how grass and trees become enlightened," he replies simply, then continues on his way down the mountain path, leaving the young monk staring after him in astonishment. This elegant story illuminates several profound aspects of Zen wisdom and teaching. At its heart is the contrast between intellectual understanding and direct realization, a distinction that lies at the core of Zen practice. The young monk, with his years of formal study and memorization of sutras, approaches spiritual practice primarily through concepts and theories. His question about grass and trees becoming enlightened reflects this conceptual orientation. He's trying to fit a puzzling teaching into his intellectual framework. Shinkan's response, "Of what use is it to discuss how grass and trees become enlightened? The question is how you yourself can become so," gently redirects the monk from abstract speculation to the essential matter of personal awakening. This redirection is not a dismissal of the monk's question, but an invitation to move from third-person theorizing to first-person investigation. True Zen understanding doesn't come from accumulating concepts about enlightenment, but from directly realizing one's own Buddha nature. Notice how differently Shinkan approaches the elderly visitor, whose question comes not from academic interest, but from genuine concern about his own spiritual possibility. Rather than offering a philosophical explanation, Shinkan uses the immediate experience of trees and grass to point toward the universality and inherent nature of Buddha nature. The teaching is tailored perfectly to this student, connecting with his lifelong relationship to the natural world, rather than requiring familiarity with Buddhist texts or terminology. The fact that the elderly man immediately grasps what the young monk has been puzzling over highlights another Zen principle, that direct realization often comes more easily to those with fewer preconceptions and intellectual complications. The elderly man's lifetime of practical work and observation of nature has prepared him for direct seeing in a way that the monk's accumulation of concepts actually hinders. As the Zen saying goes, "In the beginner's mind, there are many possibilities, but in the expert's mind, there are few." The title question itself, "How Grass and Trees Become Enlightened," contains a misconception that Shinkan skillfully addresses without directly refuting. The question assumes that enlightenment is something to be achieved, a state to be entered through effort or practice. But from the Zen perspective, Buddha nature is not something acquired but recognized. It is the inherent nature of all beings, including plants. Grass and trees don't become enlightened. They already express their Buddha nature perfectly through simply being what they are, without self-consciousness or striving. This points to a fundamental teaching about our own practice, that awakening is not primarily about adding something new, but about recognizing what has been present all along. Like grass growing naturally toward the sun, our Buddha nature expresses itself most perfectly when we stop trying to achieve special states and simply allow our natural awareness to manifest without interference from excessive thinking and doing. The young monk's reaction to the elderly man's parting comment suggests the beginning of his own shift from intellectual understanding toward direct realization. His astonishment indicates that something has broken through his conceptual framework, perhaps the recognition that what he's been seeking through study and analysis might be more directly available than he thought. As you drift towards sleep, consider where in your own life you might be approaching important matters primarily through concepts, rather than direct experience. Perhaps you've read extensively about meditation without establishing a regular practice. Maybe you understand the principle of mindfulness intellectually, but rarely bring full awareness to ordinary moments. Or perhaps, like the young monk, you've been seeking complex explanations for something that is already perfectly expressed in the simple presence of trees and grass, in the natural awareness that is reading these words right now. Shinkan's gentle wisdom reminds us that the deepest truths are often the simplest, and that sometimes the most direct path to understanding is to stop trying to understand and simply be as naturally and completely as grass and trees, which never worry about becoming enlightened, yet perfectly express their Buddha nature in every moment. As your awareness merges with sleep, allow yourself to rest in this natural presence that requires no achievement, no special state, no complex philosophy, just the simple recognition of what has been here all along.